Chapter 1350. While moving forward, the gray-scaled old man impatiently took out a communication token. Even so, the space-time ruler's ability to transcend space was still able to descend upon him from such a great distance. There was only one person in the space-time sacred land with this title, the space-time god Eye of the 8 great god eyes, the progenitor of all eye bloodlines related to space-time intent. Zhao Feng said directly. Before this pair of silver eyes, everyone felt as insignificant as ants. Their bodies trembled and they unconsciously prostrated themselves in worship. Lord God, please let him go. Can we go now? So. All the members of the Heavenly Demon Hall looked at the members of the Spacetime Sacred Land in even greater fear. Those massive silver eyes focused on God Lord Heavenly Solitude. Everyone in the Heavenly Demon Hall felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders, and they stood up. But they did not dare to go too far, all because of the existence of the Spacetime Sacred Land. The cause of the battle between the two great powers was the Heavenly Demon Hall. You're a mighty God Lord. Do you feel no shame attacking an ancient god? As the disciple of the Spacetime Hegemon, it was his duty to resolve his master's problems. Everyone in the Heavenly Demon Hall looked at the silver sky, their hearts filled with panic. Ancient God Luo Ling didn't think too much and left with Zhao Feng. God Lord Heavenly Solitude was rendered speechless. Many experts of the Heavenly Demon Hall asked in their hearts. Who? The gray-scaled old man cried out in alarm. Yes. They were thinking that Zhao Feng might be someone that ancient God Luo Ling had brought from the Heavenly Demon Hall. If they took him away, they might be able to obtain some information from him. Then, the entire world of darkness slowly dissipated, as if dark clouds had gathered to welcome the sun after the rain. If the Heavenly Demon Hall had used everything they had at the start, the Spacetime Sacred Land would have had no chance of victory, and they might even have suffered grievous casualties. Master. Ancient God Scarlet Firmament's eyes flashed in pleasant surprise. This was the power of the Spacetime God, the absolute ruler of spacetime. The entire world seemed illusory, giving off an extremely surreal feeling. Earlier, Zhao Feng almost believed that God Lord Heavenly Solitude would kill all the other members of the Spacetime Sacred Land. Of course, this included Zhao Feng and ancient God Luo Ling in the Heavenly Demon Hall. The people of the Spacetime Sacred Land asked no further questions. But now, Zhao Feng was saying that the Spacetime Sacred Land's God power had descended upon this place. The first sentence was to stop the killing, and the second sentence was to end everything. In the ancient desolate realm of gods, the number of people who could be called gods could be counted on one hand. What's that? From this point of view, God Lord Heavenly Solitude's killing of the Spacetime Sacred Land's ancient god was completely within reason. Lord God, are you planning to personally deal with a God Lord like me? The people of the Spacetime Sacred Land led Zhao Feng away. They were incomparably shocked. They had never imagined that their movements had been monitored by the Lord Sovereign this entire time. God Lord Heavenly Solitude immediately admitted defeat and offered compensation. However, when they looked at the outside world, they were shocked once again. Ancient God Luo Ling sensed that Zhao Feng seemed to know something. Ancient God Luo Ling. Ancient God Luo Ling asked. Suddenly, a gap appeared in the gigantic ball of darkness floating beside the tower. Zhao Feng was also watching everything outside. At this moment, God Lord Heavenly Solitude, who was like a supreme god in everyone's eyes, truly stopped and raised his head to the sky. Spacetime. Ruler. Just the space-traversing phantom shadow is already so powerful. But in this matter, the Heavenly Demon Hall was in the wrong first. We are willing to compensate the members of the Spacetime Sacred Land who died. The huge silver eyes in the sky turned slightly. To think that such a change would occur. This was the first time they had ever seen the power of a sovereign, and never could they have imagined that they would be fighting an enemy. Since the Lord Hegemon was personally taking action, they wouldn't be in any danger. On the other hand, the heavenly demon hall, at this moment, ancient god Scarlet Firmament coldly laughed. At the same time, countless overlapping shadows appeared in the entire world. Let's go. All the members of the Spacetime Sacred Land answered in unison. Many of the Spacetime Sacred Land members were stunned by this sight. This youth was so young and didn't have the eye of spacetime, but his spacetime intent was so powerful. At the same time, all the members of the Spacetime Sacred Land kneeled and cried out in unison, "Lord God." The heart of the gray-scaled old man trembled violently, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Zhao Feng was extremely shocked. "Lord Sovereign. No, how is this possible? You're spouting nonsense." God Lord Heavenly Solitude naturally understood what ancient god Scarlet Firmament was referring to. Just like that, everyone from the Spacetime Sacred Land, leave this place. Thump. This. The gray-scaled old man blurted out in shock, his face contorted in shock. After kneeling, their expressions and movements became extremely stiff and slow, as if they were moving in slow motion. It seemed like he had underestimated the power of a god. In this battle, the heavenly demon hall had suffered grievous losses, and the Spacetime Sacred Land had even offered to compensate the members of the Spacetime Sacred Land who had died. He had seen everything just now, but he didn't know exactly what had happened. Stop. At this moment, not even ancient god Nether Spring had any idea how the situation would develop. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon, Zhao Wang, and the little thieving cat had long ago been put away in Zhao Feng's interspatial dimension. Members of the Spacetime Sacred Land, leave the Heavenly Demon Hall. There's still one more person. Although the world of darkness had vanished, the area around them was now covered in a layer of silver. At this moment, a bright beam of light descended from the sky. Zhao Feng stared at the silver eyes in the sky. No one could be sure that if the Heavenly Demon Hall did not do as they were told, the Spacetime God's power would descend once more. Ancient God Scarlet Firmament straightforwardly said. This. But quite a few Spacetime God descendants seemed to have guessed at something when they saw that pair of silver eyes. Reverence and worship appeared in their eyes. Ancient God Scarlet Firmament saw that ancient God Luo Ling was fine and that she had even broken through, so he immediately called out in delight. Two silhouettes flew out from the dark light ball. And at this moment, he was willing to compensate the members of the Spacetime Sacred Land who had died. Ancient God Scarlet Firmament got down on one knee and respectfully said. At this moment, the voice of the soul resounded through the sky once more. What's going on? He had no idea what was going on outside, but now that he had left the Heavenly Demon Hall, he realized that Zhao Feng and the members of the Spacetime Sacred Land had all disappeared. God Lord Heavenly Solitude immediately said. The experts skilled in spacetime intent suddenly felt that the world's spacetime had become extremely foreign, and they were unable to use their spacetime energy. Swish. God Lord Heavenly Solitude was stunned. Ancient God Luo Ling bluntly asked. How could this be? The spacetime god actually paid attention to this place. He even wondered if the spacetime god had been paying attention this entire time, waiting for him to strike. Once he killed an ancient god of the Spacetime Sacred Land, the Spacetime god killing him would be understandable. Bzzzzz. God Lord Heavenly Solitude's expression darkened, and then he spoke in a cold and sinister voice, the Heaven's Legacy Cat is not in the Heavenly Demon Hall. They were the publicly acknowledged gods of the ancient desolate realm of gods, omnipotent. What's going on? Zhao Feng stared at ancient god Luo Ling and asked. Ancient god Nether Spring was stunned, and then he angrily bellowed. He had not expected for the spacetime god to interfere. The members of the Heavenly Demon Hall around God Lord Heavenly Solitude were powerless to resist and instantly kneeled on the ground. I'll go with you. This voice. At this point, Zhao Feng's heart surged with passion and pride. Lord God. A cold and sinister voice echoed through every corner of the Heavenly Demon Hall. The power of a god-eye deity has descended. If the spacetime sacred land continued to pursue this matter, it would lose its reputation as a sacred land. Ancient god Luo Ling blurted out in shock, and then a look of joy appeared on her face. The compensation for the deaths of these three people was nothing to a god lord. God Lord Heavenly Solitude's body erupted with powerful energy to resist the spacetime pressure. Ancient God Scarlet Firmament looked at Zhao Feng in confusion. He remembered that he had only sent ancient god Luo Ling to infiltrate the heavenly demon hall. After all, the spacetime sacred land's people were already attacking. As soon as he finished speaking, the silver eyes in the sky disappeared. Just a moment ago, that oppressive death energy had vanished. Ancient God Scarlet Firmament wanted to say something, but he didn't know what to say. Gone. When they were in danger, the spacetime god used his supreme divine ability to use his space transference eye to descend. Otherwise, God Lord Heavenly Solitude would have killed yet another ancient god of the spacetime sacred land. Silver light crisscrossed in the sky, creating an extremely complex picture. Although the spacetime god had left, that invisible pressure still shrouded their bodies. Although they had been noticed by the god this time, nothing major had happened. He had belittled himself and raised up the spacetime god, then said that the spacetime god was bullying the weak. In a flash, God Lord Heavenly Solitude's face turned ghastly pale, and a trickle of black blood seeped out of the corner of his lips. His left eye twitched slightly, and he felt an unprecedented sense of excitement. His legs trembled as if he was about to fall to his knees. God Lord Heavenly Solitude called out. This was the spacetime god's second sentence. Thump thump. Thump thump. If the god's spiritual eye really was the ninth god eye, there would come a day when he also had a chance to reach that level and become a god of the ancient desolate realm of gods, a god who would rule the world for all eternity. 8 great god eyes, spacetime god eye. God Lord Heavenly Solitude's expression darkened. Zhao Feng exuded spacetime intent and used spacetime blink to appear in the spacetime sacred land group. This is compensation. The other members of the spacetime sacred land stared in shock at Zhao Feng. They didn't recognize this person. The messenger was naturally ancient god Netherspring. What? The Heaven's Legacy Cat was taken away. Lord God, my actions just now were completely because your disciple led a group of people to attack the heavenly demon hall and caused enormous losses and casualties. Although the Antian zone bordered the Yangling zone, the spacetime sacred land was extremely far from the Arctic abyss. An ordinary rank 3 or rank 4 true god would need nearly 10 years of uninterrupted flight to get there. Those massive silver eyes seemed to become the heavens, obscuring all. In a flash, a pair of massive silver eyes appeared in the sky. These eyes seemed to contain their own world, their own universe, and countless stars and motes of light could be seen within them. Anyone who looked into them would feel like they had fallen into an unknown spacetime. God Lord Heavenly Solitude had casually tossed out an interspatial dimension. The value of this interspatial dimension was more than enough to pay for 3 lives. Moreover, the strength and talent that Zhao Feng had displayed were not bad. It would be even better if he joined the spacetime sacred land. That's enough. An ancient and ethereal voice that seemed to come from a distant spacetime resounded through the world of darkness. Within the heavenly demon hall, other than the person that God Lord Heavenly Solitude had just killed, the only other people who had died in the spacetime sacred land were the 2 core disciples of the spacetime sacred land that the heavenly demon hall had captured at the very beginning. However, Zhao Feng speculated that the people of the spacetime sacred land would definitely be able to leave safely, but he himself might not be able to. To his surprise, when God Lord Heavenly Solitude was about to kill the second person, the spacetime god suddenly intervened. Of course, the silver eye in the sky was not the spacetime god's true body, but his ability to transcend space. Suddenly. Chapter 1351. Zhao Feng flew with the spacetime sacred lands group for a very long time. Ancient God Luo Ling, who is this person? Someone in the group finally asked. Zhao Feng was young, but he already had the cultivation of a rank 8 ancient god. Even rarer was that he didn't have the eye of spacetime, but his spacetime intent was so profound. Even the spacetime sacred land would find it difficult to find a disciple more outstanding than Zhao Feng. I got to know him when I infiltrated the Heavenly Demon Hall, so he's also an infiltrator. The two of us worked together to survive until now. Ancient God Luo Ling glanced at Zhao Feng and then said. In the Heavenly Demon Hall, she had never seen Zhao Feng's true appearance. She could only judge from his voice that Zhao Feng wasn't very old. When she saw Zhao Feng's true appearance, even Ancient God Luo Ling was taken aback. Zhao Feng had a handsome appearance and an excellent demeanor. When paired with his deep left eye and dreamy silver hair, he seemed even more mysterious and bewitching. Infiltrator. The members of the Spacetime Sacred Land were all taken aback. They had never imagined that Zhao Feng would have such an identity. Ancient God Luo Ling's suggestion of helping each other attracted the attention of everyone present. Now that Ancient God Luo Ling had become a rank 9 ancient god, anyone that could help her could not be simple. Good sir, may I ask which faction you belong to? Ancient God Scarlet Firmament straightforwardly asked. With Zhao Feng's talent, he was probably a member of a major faction, perhaps even a god realm sacred land. But if Zhao Feng was a member of a major faction, why would he infiltrate the Heavenly Demon Hall alone? In addition, he was also very interested in Zhao Feng's goal in infiltrating the Heavenly Demon Hall. What sort of goal was worth him entering a danger zone alone? Spiritual race, Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng bluntly said. Now that he knew his appearance, it would be extremely easy for the other party to investigate his identity, so there was no need to hide anything. Spiritual race. The members of the Spacetime Sacred Land became pensive. This Zhao will take his leave. If there is a chance in the future, I will definitely pay a visit to thank all of you. Zhao Feng immediately offered his resignation. He was only borrowing the Spacetime Sacred Land's hand to escape the Heavenly Demon Hall. He had no plans of going with them to the Spacetime Sacred Land. Then I'll take my leave. Ancient God Scarlet Firmament did not urge him to stay. Farewell. Zhao Feng said to Ancient God Luo Ling before leaving. After traveling a short distance, Zhao Feng suddenly stopped. Let's try teleportation. Space shift required one to have 6 levels of space profound. Zhao Feng had been studying it for a long time, and now, he understood 70 to 80% of it. In order to increase the chances of success, Zhao Feng put on the spacetime robe. Swoosh! Layers of space rippled, with Zhao Feng at the center. Gradually, the spatial vortex became smaller and smaller, but the spatial fluctuations became more intense. In the next moment, Zhao Feng's figure was directly sucked into the space vortex. Over 10 million miles away. Whoosh! Whoosh! A spatial vortex suddenly appeared, and Zhao Feng's figure slowly emerged from the void. A single teleportation can cover more than 10 million miles. Zhao Feng was stunned. This distance was several dozen times that of instant movement. Of course, this was Zhao Feng's first time using space shift, so there was still room for improvement. In addition, although space shift allowed one to travel an extremely long distance, the secret art took a long time to prepare and could easily be interrupted. Ancient God Luo Ling, how did you get to know Zhao Feng? What's his goal in infiltrating the Heavenly Demon Hall? Quite a few members of the team immediately asked. I ran into him on the way into the secret hall. His goal is to rescue his pet. Ancient God Luo Ling straightforwardly replied. Rescue his pet. Ancient God Luo Ling, you haven't been tricked by that brat, have you? An elderly rank 8 ancient god with blue hair faintly smiled. In his view, although Ancient God Luo Ling was talented and powerful, she was still too young and inexperienced. Ancient God Luo Ling coldly glanced at this person and said nothing. Right, ancient god Luo Ling, with your strength, even if you run into danger, that Zhao Feng shouldn't be able to help you, right? Ancient god Scarlet Firmament suddenly asked. Earlier, with Zhao Feng present, he was too embarrassed to directly speak. I broke into rank 9 entirely because of him. Ancient god Luo Ling did not explain in too much detail. What? Many of the Spacetime Sacred Land members present were stunned. The one who had helped ancient god Luo Ling break into rank 9 was Zhao Feng. Several of the people present were rank 8 ancient gods, and they were even more anxious to know how Zhao Feng had helped ancient god Luo Ling break into rank 9. However, right at this moment, an oppressive aura of death suddenly descended, causing the heavens and the earth to darken. All the members of the Spacetime Sacred Land, including ancient god Scarlet Firmament, had grave expressions. They were all extremely familiar with this energy. It belonged to God Lord Heavenly Solitude. Swish! Suddenly, a black figure appeared in front of them. God Lord Heavenly Solitude's sinister and terrifying eyes scanned the area, and then his expression darkened. Where's Zhao Feng? God Lord Heavenly Solitude straightforwardly asked. Once Zhao Feng's appearance was exposed, the Heavenly Demon Hall immediately investigated his identity. Gone. Ancient God Scarlet Firmament bluntly said. Gone. Your Spacetime Sacred Land is far too untrustworthy. You actually took an outsider away. God Lord Heavenly Solitude coldly snorted, and an invisible pressure began to weigh down on all the members of the Spacetime Sacred Land. All of them had gloomy expressions, and even breathing became somewhat difficult. Quite a few of them shot dissatisfied glances at ancient god Luo Ling. It doesn't seem like we took Zhao Feng away, but Zhao Feng left with us. And we never said that he was a member of the Spacetime Sacred Land. Ancient god Scarlet Firmament fearlessly said. He was confident that God Lord Heavenly Solitude would not do anything to them. After all, they had done nothing wrong, and the Spacetime God was still intimidating them. Good, good. God Lord Heavenly Solitude's eyes bulged as he stared at the people in front of him. A suffocating death energy began to spread. And this was only because God Lord Heavenly Solitude was doing his best to suppress it. Otherwise, an ordinary rank 8 ancient god would have died on the spot. From this, one could see just how angry God Lord Heavenly Solitude was. But this was completely understandable. His primary goal in coming to the Heavenly Demon Hall was to take away the Heaven's Legacy Cat. The research results of the Heavenly Demon Hall were secondary. And not only had he run into the Spacetime God on this trip, he had lost a great deal of face. Most importantly, he had lost the Heaven's Legacy Cat. I trust that the members of the Spacetime Sacred Land are not intentionally deceiving me. God Lord Heavenly Solitude gradually calmed down. This person plundered many precious resources in the Heavenly Demon Hall and killed several ancient god experts. Which direction did he take just now? God Lord Heavenly Solitude straightforwardly asked. There was no need to target the Spacetime Sacred Land at this moment. Zhao Feng had probably left not too long ago, so it was still possible to catch up. The members of the Spacetime Sacred Land couldn't help but sigh. Just what was so special about this Zhao Feng that God Lord Heavenly Solitude would personally come to capture him? Over there. Ancient God Luo Ling pointed. Ancient God Scarlet Firmament grimaced, but he said nothing. Ancient God Luo Ling was naturally pointing in the wrong direction. It was the exact opposite of the direction Zhao Feng had taken. God Lord Heavenly Solitude was stunned, but he also said nothing. When he investigated Zhao Feng, he naturally knew that Zhao Feng was from the spiritual race, and ancient God Luo Ling was pointing in the opposite direction. However, Zhao Feng had probably predicted that the Heavenly Demon Hall would pursue him, so it was perfectly normal for him to do the opposite. Swish! A moment later, God Lord Heavenly Solitude vanished. Light returned to the world, and everyone felt relieved. Ancient God Luo Ling, how could you do this? You've offended a god lord. The blue-haired elder immediately questioned. Everyone felt nothing but yearning, respect, and fear toward a god lord. He helped me break into rank 9, so I helped him once. Ancient god Luo Ling softly said, her expression unchanged. In truth, Zhao Feng helping her break into rank 9 was a transaction, and the transaction was concluded long ago. Hurry and go. Ancient god Scarlet Firmament barked. Although ancient god Luo Ling had deceived god Lord Heavenly Solitude, even if god Lord Heavenly Solitude failed to capture her, there was no direct evidence that the spacetime sacred land had deceived him. However, if he came looking for her, there would inevitably be some trouble. Swoosh! The members of the spacetime sacred land hurriedly left. Meanwhile, Zhao Feng, who was in the middle of studying spacetime shift, had no idea that he had just brushed shoulders with death. Bzzz. A silver-robed man emerged from a spatial whirlpool. Although it's rather taxing, it's completely worth it given the distance. Zhao Feng was extremely satisfied with spacetime shift. The ancient desolate realm of gods was incredibly vast, and each journey was rather long and dull. This was also why almost all true gods and ancient gods would try to comprehend space intent. Using spacetime shift, he would stop from time to time. Less than 10 days later, he arrived outside the Black Devil Peak faction. I wonder what's going on with ancient god floating spirits group. Zhao Feng pondered. After entering the heavenly demon hall, communication methods were cut off from the outside world, so Elder Floating Spirit and the others were unable to contact Zhao Feng. The spiritual race's trade mission had ended long ago, so the spiritual race team had probably already returned. Bzzz. Zhao Feng slightly activated his left eye and peered into Black Devil Peak. After the god's spiritual eye evolved, its vision had become even broader, and coupled with its ability to see through things, it was like a fish in water. Moreover, if he used his eyes to observe, he wouldn't be noticed. If he used his divine sense, an expert of the same level would immediately notice him. They probably left. Zhao Feng observed many places, but there was no sign of any spiritual race experts remaining here. I wonder if Kuan Yun. Zhao Feng suddenly thought of something and muttered to himself. Back then, he had planned to have the spiritual race elders take Kuan Yun away before parting with the spiritual race. But midway, Zhao Hui had been robbed, so he hadn't been notified. However, as long as Kuan Yun explained everything to the spiritual race elders, ancient god Floating Spirit would definitely lend a helping hand. But when Zhao Feng's gaze swept over Kuan Yun's residence, his expression darkened. On the outer peak a certain room was surrounded by outer peak disciples. Kuan Yun, hurry and come out. Let's spar again. A tall, skeleton-like youth loudly laughed. As long as you defeat me, you can take back that average quality divine artifact you lost to me and become the #1 disciple of the outer peak. The day you enter the inner peak is just around the corner. The skeleton-like youth coldly laughed as he continued to shout. Hurry and come out, Kuan Yun, you cowardly turtle. Several dozen outer peak disciples around him began to shout. Kuan Yun, I've asked you many times for guidance, but you've never given me any face. Since that's the case, I can only break down the door and enter. The skeleton-like youth gave a savage smile as he flew toward the door. But suddenly, a terrifying energy that suppressed the entire crowd descended. Boom! Bang! The skeletal youth spurted out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying backward. Chapter 1352. When Kuan Yun heard that the skeletal man was about to break in, his heart trembled. As an outer sect disciple, the skeletal man would be punished for breaking into another disciple's room. However, all of the skeletal man's actions were directed by True God Cloudbreaker, and True God Cloudbreaker was now a core disciple with a lofty status. The steward managing the outer sect disciples didn't want to offend True God Cloudbreaker, so he turned a blind eye. Knowing that he couldn't dodge, Kuan Yun pushed open the door. But suddenly, a figure appeared in front of him. At the same time, an imposing aura that shook the entire place suddenly spread out. The charging skeletal man was sent flying and crashed to the ground, unable to get up for a long time. Everyone else felt a mountainous pressure and found it extremely difficult to even stand. This. I wonder. Senior brother. The skeletal man fearfully stared at Zhao Feng. This youth was far more powerful than he had imagined. Such terrifying strength meant that he was definitely a core disciple, but the skeletal man didn't remember such a person from Black Devil Peak. Thump. The other outer sect disciples all kneeled. Kuan Yun, why are you still here? Zhao Feng whispered as he suddenly turned around. Kuan Yun stared in shock at this expert. He wanted to know just which senior brother or senior had helped him this time. When he saw Zhao Feng's face, his face froze, and then it turned into shock. You're Zhao Feng. Kuan Yun called out in alarm. Although his eyes and hair had changed color, his face hadn't changed much. Moreover, Kuan Yun knew that Zhao Feng's left eye was constantly transforming. When Kuan Yun called out Zhao Feng's name, one or two Black Devil Peak disciples paled, including the skeletal man. The spiritual race's Zhao Feng. The skeletal man immediately got up, his expression no longer respectful. He had originally believed that this was a senior brother or elder of Black Devil Peak, not that it was Zhao Feng. As a member of the spirit race, it was wrong for Zhao Feng to attack a disciple of Black Devil Peak. Moreover, he hadn't done anything to Zhao Feng. It was Zhao Feng who had attacked first. Moreover, True God Cloudbreaker, who stood behind the skeletal man, was also a core disciple, on the same level as the spiritual race's Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng, you trespassed on Black Devil Peak and attacked a disciple of Black Devil Peak. Just wait for your punishment. The skeletal man said coldly. Zhao Feng was not afraid at all. He did not even look at the skeletal man. It's like this, Kuan Yun was already extremely depressed, so he directly spat out the whole story. It turned out that Black Devil Peak had sent out a large number of people to search for Zhao Hui after his disappearance, but to no avail. Thus, Kuan Yun could only take the initiative to inform the spirit race elder of everything, hoping to escape this place. Alas, True God Cloudbreaker had secretly sent people to imprison Kuan Yun in his residence, causing him to miss the opportunity. Afterward, Kuan Yun was targeted by True God Cloudbreaker, whose current goal was to extract the treasures and divine artifacts on him. Not too long ago, Kuan Yun had been forced to fight. At the time, he believed that with his 3 average quality divine artifacts, he should be able to defeat the skeletal man. But to his surprise, the skeletal man also had an average quality divine artifact from True God Cloudbreaker. Coupled with the fact that the skeletal man was extremely strong, Kuan Yun was defeated and lost an average quality divine artifact. I'll take you away. Zhao Feng straightforwardly said. Only now did he turn around and coldly stare at the skeletal man. In a flash, the skeletal man felt like the sky was collapsing, making it impossible for him to move. Die! Zhao Feng muttered. In a flash, the skeletal man's soul was crushed by an invisible force and pulverized. Thump! The skeletal man's body toppled to the ground. An interspatial dimension flew out of his body and over to Kuan Yun's side. Kuan Yun was extremely excited when he saw the interspatial dimension. This was strength. Killing a true god as easily as killing an ant. At this moment, boom! Boom! 2 evil and fiendish auras erupted from the outer peak of Black Devil Peak. Who dares to intrude upon Black Devil Peak? 2 evil path ancient gods charged toward Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng had pierced through Black Devil Peak's sensory domain. Even if he didn't intentionally release his cultivation, Black Devil Peak would still know. Swoosh! Swoosh! 2 silhouettes instantly arrived nearby. When their gazes swept over the skeletal man at the side, their faces instantly darkened. Elder! The Black Devil Peak disciples respectfully bowed. Zhao Feng, you recklessly intruded upon Black Devil Peak and killed the disciples of Black Devil Peak. Don't you have no respect for Black Devil Peak? One of them coldly questioned. I'm helping you clean up your sect. Zhao Feng's expression darkened as he scanned the two ancient gods and unleashed an invisible energy. These two ancient god elders were only rank 7 ancient gods guarding the outer peak. Zhao Feng could instantly kill them with a glance. Rank 8. The expressions of the two elders immediately relaxed a little. The death of an outer peak disciple was nothing. They just felt that a junior dared to act so arrogantly and wanted to teach him a lesson. They hadn't expected for Zhao Feng to be a rank 8 ancient god. Based on what they knew, Zhao Feng had just broken into rank 7 not too long ago. How could he have reached rank 8 so quickly? Zhao Feng, you killed a disciple of Black Devil Peak. You can't just leave like this. You have to give an explanation to the higher-ups. The two elders relaxed their words and decided to leave this matter to the higher-ups. Okay. Zhao Feng nodded. Killing an outer peak disciple wasn't much, but Zhao Feng wanted to take away an outer peak disciple. If these two actions were added together, it truly would seem like Zhao Feng was being too unbridled and had no respect for Black Devil Peak. In the conference hall, you are Zhao Feng. Elder Tao carefully examined Zhao Feng and gave a slight nod. He truly lived up to his reputation as the most dazzling genius of the spiritual race. He had directly broken through to rank 6, reached rank 7 not too long ago, and now was rank 8. Not even the spiritual race with extremely thick bloodlines could compare to this level of talent. The demon-faced elder was also rather surprised. Black Devil Peak was divided into 2 factions. Elder Tao's faction had a good relationship with the spiritual race while the demon-faced elder's faction was trying to worsen the relationship between the spiritual race and the other faction. Zhao Feng, for you to casually kill a disciple of my Black Devil Peak is far too impudent. The demon-faced elder suddenly asked, exuding an indistinct and powerful energy. Previously, when the spiritual race first arrived, he proposed a competition in an attempt to worsen the relationship between the spiritual race and Elder Tao's faction. In the end, Zhao Hui had appeared out of nowhere and disrupted his plans. If he could use this chance to heavily punish Zhao Feng, the spiritual race would definitely be fiercely displeased and he would once more be able to achieve his goal. Elder, let me speak of another matter first. Zhao Hui and I are very good brothers, and I just so happened to be traveling around the Antian zone. When I heard that he had gone missing, I began to investigate on my own. Zhao Feng suddenly changed the topic. Zhao Hui. The demon-faced elder was taken aback for a moment before he said regretfully, although he did not go missing in Black Devil Peak, we are still very sorry. Have you found out anything? As soon as he finished speaking, Zhao Feng waved his hand, and Zhao Hui appeared. This scene gave the demon-faced elder quite a fright. How could someone who had been sent to the heavenly demon hall still be alive? I was captured by a disciple of Black Devil Peak. Zhao Hui said directly. Such a thing actually happened. Elder Tao's expression changed. He had not expected Black Devil Peak to be responsible for Zhao Hui's disappearance. He had to investigate this thoroughly. In the next moment, Zhao Hui released a memory projection and displayed the scene of him being captured. Don't worry, Black Devil Peak will personally deal with these two and give the spiritual race an explanation. The demon-faced elder said righteously. They were just 2 ordinary inner peak disciples. He had sent someone to deal with them, and there would be no more trouble. Also, I wonder if the elders know of the heavenly demon hall. Zhao Feng suddenly said with a smile. The heavenly demon hall. The 2 elders said at the same time. He naturally knew that the heavenly demon hall had secret dealings with the demon-faced elders faction, but he had not expected for Zhao Feng to even know about the heavenly demon hall. Elder Tao was surprised because he had just found out that the demon-faced elders faction had dealings with a mysterious faction called the Heavenly Demon Hall. The demon-faced elder's faction had been rapidly growing stronger recently because of the Heavenly Demon Hall's secret support, but he had yet to find out the specifics of the Heavenly Demon Hall. A few days ago, when I was searching for Zhao Hui, I accidentally discovered a battlefield between the Heavenly Demon Hall and the Spacetime's Sacred Land. Zhao Feng looked at the demon-faced elder and slowly said. The demon-faced elder had an extremely gloomy expression. He had been in contact with the Heavenly Demon Hall for quite some time now, so he naturally knew a little about the Heavenly Demon Hall's actions. These scoundrels actually dared to capture a god-eye descendant of the Spacetime's Sacred Land. The demon-faced elder inwardly cursed. They had dealings with the Heavenly Demon Hall, and in a few months, the Heavenly Demon Hall would be giving them resources, but now the Heavenly Demon Hall was in trouble. Elder, you seem to be very concerned about this faction. Zhao Feng faintly smiled at the demon-faced elder. Before the demon-faced elder could explain, Zhao Feng said, the Heavenly Demon Hall was extremely extraordinary, with as many experts as the clouds in the sky. But in the end, the space-time god descended through space and everything came to an end. Now, the Heavenly Demon Hall is nowhere to be seen. The moment he said this, the two elders' hearts trembled and their expressions changed dramatically. I didn't think that the Heavenly Demon Hall would offend the Spacetime's Sacred Land, even provoking the Spacetime God to take action. Elder Tao found this extremely inconceivable, but he was inwardly delighted. For the Heavenly Demon Hall to vanish was the best result for him. The demon-faced elder's face was as gloomy as still water, and he said nothing. With the Spacetime God taking action, the Heavenly Demon Hall had vanished without a trace. In his view, the Heavenly Demon Hall had definitely been destroyed until only dregs remained. Everyone, I still have matters to attend to, so I will take my leave. Zhao Feng saw the demon-faced elder's expression, coldly smiled, and took his leave. The demon-faced elder had been dealt a heavy blow, and he was in no mood to argue about Zhao Feng's actions on Black Devil Peak. Zhao Feng, if you have the chance to come again, Black Devil Peak will definitely entertain you. Elder Tao cheerfully said. Zhao Feng's appearance had brought him the best news of all. Kuan Yun, let's go. After leaving the hall, Zhao Feng said to the worried Kuan Yun. We can go. Kuan Yun found it somewhat hard to believe that he could finally leave Black Devil Peak. But Kuan Yun's cultivation was too low, so for the sake of convenience, Zhao Feng had placed him in the space-time robe dimension. Kuan Yun's cultivation was too low, so even if he had any designs on the space-time robe, it would be useless, so Zhao Feng was completely at ease. After leaving Black Devil Peak, Zhao Feng turned around. I can't let the two of you go either. Zhao Feng activated his left eye and began to search Black Devil Peak. True God Cloudbreaker and Young Master Hai were quickly discovered by Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng activated his left eye and very inconspicuously left behind a mark on their bodies. One had to realize that Zhao Feng's soul intent had reached the peak of rank 8, so the two of them couldn't possibly sense anything strange. After doing all this, Zhao Feng prepared to leave. But his god's spiritual eye suddenly noticed that two ancient gods were approaching Black Devil Peak, and their target seemed to be him. It's him. One of them was a muscular middle-aged man with a rather pale complexion, and he looked at the nearby Zhao Feng. He's Zhao Feng, the person Lady Wuheng is looking for. A buxom woman dressed in light blue also carefully examined Zhao Feng. Chapter 1353. As expected, Zhao Feng stood where he was while the two ancient gods approached. As the two sides stared at each other, the muscular man and buxom woman began to carefully examine Zhao Feng. What business do the two of you have? Zhao Feng went straight to the point. These two didn't seem to be very familiar with him, but their target was him. This left Zhao Feng extremely confused. Is Sir Zhao Feng? The muscular man asked. I am. Zhao Feng confidently replied. These two knew his name but didn't recognize Zhao Feng, so they probably weren't from the Xiling Zone or Antian Zone. The ancient god seal is in your hands. Please return it to us. The muscular man straightforwardly said. At the same time, a heaven-shaking bloodline pressure began to spread out. Even Zhao Feng's body trembled in surprise. What a powerful primordial bloodline. Zhao Feng was startled. The muscular man's ancient bloodline was definitely not ordinary and was definitely ranked near the top. But based on the characteristics of his body, Zhao Feng couldn't guess what bloodline it was. But for some reason, Zhao Feng felt a sense of familiarity with this bloodline, as if he had seen it before. That's mine. Zhao Feng's face chilled as he began to exude a heavy and steady aura. At present, only ancient god Black Heaven knew the name of the ancient god seal and was desperately trying to steal it. The two people who had come here today were also after the ancient god seal. This made Zhao Feng speculate that they were members of ancient god Black Heaven's faction. Moreover, both of them were rank 8 ancient gods, and with their powerful bloodlines, they possessed extraordinary strength. But Zhao Feng had also undergone a heaven-shaking transformation. Even if these two worked together, he wouldn't fear them in the slightest. In addition, these two were not like ancient god Black Heaven, who immediately attacked, so Zhao Feng didn't attack. If they directly attacked, he wouldn't be polite. Boom! The aura that Zhao Feng exuded was not any weaker than the robust man. This was because Zhao Feng cultivated the Chaos Heaven Void Origin technique and had comprehended many intents. There was also the fact that Zhao Feng had witnessed the divine might of half-step godlords, and even gods. To a certain extent, Zhao Feng's state of mind was tempered, his horizons were broadened, and he became fearless and courageous. Zhao Feng's aura and attitude caused the two people on the other side to be slightly shocked. This person is not simple. The muscular man thought to himself. Now that he was injured, he might not be a match for the other party in a one-on-one fight. I advise you to return it to us. This divine artifact is of no use to you. Instead, it will bring you trouble. Moreover, if you have any requests, you can also state them. The robust man's attitude softened a little, and he also restrained his aura. Why do you want the ancient god seal? Zhao Feng asked the question in his heart. At present, the ancient god seal truly wasn't very useful to Zhao Feng. Moreover, the ancient god seal was coveted by the faction that ancient god Black Heaven belonged to. In the past, Zhao Feng might have handed it over in exchange for other benefits. But now that Zhao Feng had joined the spiritual race and was a rank 8 ancient god, there was not much that he feared. Thus, Zhao Feng was even more interested in the secrets of the ancient god seal. This. The muscular man immediately hesitated. He knew a little about the ancient god seal, but he could not tell an outsider. Okay, Zhao Feng, come with us to Giant God Hall. You can make your decision there. At this moment, the buxom woman who had been smiling at Zhao Feng this entire time finally spoke. If I go with you to Giant God Hall, won't I have to do everything you want? Zhao Feng sneered. He had never heard of Giant God Hall, but it was at least a peak 4-star organization. It was far too dangerous for Zhao Feng to venture alone. I am here on Lord Wuheng's orders to invite you. I can guarantee that your life will not be in danger if you go to Giant God Hall. The buxom woman's expression turned a little more solemn. Lord Wuheng. Zhao Feng's expression froze as he spoke. This name naturally made him think of Xian Wuheng. Moreover, Zhao Feng knew that the appearance of the god corpse in the continent zone had a lot to do with Xian Wuheng. To a certain degree, Zhao Feng had obtained the ancient god seal from Xian Wuheng. At this moment, the buxom woman took out a square jade talisman, which immediately began to glow with white light. The light formed a translucent screen that slowly condensed into a tall and imposing figure. Although his demeanor had changed, his appearance was extremely similar to the Xian Wuheng that Zhao Feng had once known. Zhao Feng, if you are willing, please come to Giant God Hall. Xian Wuheng only said this one sentence in the image, and then the light screen disappeared. Although it was just a simple sentence, Zhao Feng sensed that Xian Wuheng had something to say, but it was inconvenient. At this moment, Zhao Feng once more examined the two people in front of him. They were both members of Giant God Hall, but their attitudes toward Zhao Feng were somewhat different. The buxom woman was following Xian Wuheng's orders, but he did not know what the other person's situation was. Although these two have different attitudes, they are both here for the ancient god seal. If I don't go, they will continue to bother me. Moreover, they are also connected to Xian Wuheng. After some thought, Zhao Feng decided to go to Giant God Hall. After all, Xian Wuheng had given him extremely precious tribulation lightning god crystals before leaving the continent zone, and he had also given Zhao Feng clues to Lu Qinxin's whereabouts. In short, Xian Wuheng had shown kindness to Zhao Feng. Moreover, to be able to see familiar people from the continent zone in the ancient desolate realm of gods was something to be happy about. Okay, I'll go with you. Zhao Feng straightforwardly agreed. Then let's go. The buxom woman faintly smiled. Wait a moment. I still have other things to do. Zhao Feng looked at Black Devil Peak and said. What else do you want to do? We'll take you to Giant God Hall, but only you. We can't bring anyone else. The muscular man grimaced. He believed that Zhao Feng was a member of Black Devil Peak and was worried about his own safety, so he prepared to bring a few people with him. No, let me kill 2 people first. Zhao Feng's sudden smile made the pair shiver in fear. Whoosh! 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 Zhao Feng and the pair left Black Devil Peak. Within Black Devil Peak, they left. Elder Tao softly muttered. 3 ancient gods gathering on the perimeter of Black Devil Peak naturally attracted their attention. Fortunately, these 3 ancient gods seemed to have other matters to attend to and only spoke a few words before leaving. The upper echelon members of Black Devil Peak were relieved. That ancient god just now exuded a bloodline energy that seems to belong to the giant god race. A white-haired old man said. Wasn't the giant god race already extinct? Elder Tao was alarmed. A race isn't so easily exterminated, and it was such a powerful race. After leaving Black Devil Peak for some distance, the trio concealed themselves in a gloomy valley. The people you want to kill should be the people of Black Devil Peak, but what are you doing hiding here? The muscular man straightforwardly asked. Zhao Feng did not reply, but his left eye suddenly unleashed a powerful ripple of soul energy. A moment later, through the mark on True God Cloudbreaker's body, he could vaguely sense what was going on nearby. What a powerful soul energy! The muscular man was taken aback. Zhao Feng's cultivation was clearly inferior to theirs, but his soul intent far surpassed theirs. Coupled with his somewhat mysterious eye bloodline, his fighting power was probably not low. Meow. At this moment, the little thieving cat jumped out of the interspatial dimension and onto Zhao Feng's shoulder. What a strange cat! The buxom woman immediately stared at the little thieving cat. The little thieving cat's current appearance was very different from that of an ordinary cat. Its body was robust and well-proportioned, giving off the impression of a perfect being. Its ears and tail were long and slender, giving it the appearance of a spirit. Most bizarre of all were the complex silver runes and diagrams on the little thieving cat's body. The little thieving cat warily stared at the two from Giant God Hall. A moment later, the soul energy in Zhao Feng's body dimmed and vanished as if he had died. Only the little thieving cat knew that Zhao Feng's gaze had already drifted to the distant horizon. In True God Cloudbreaker's residence, becoming a core disciple really is different. This 7 Revolutions Blood Essence pill can help me consolidate my cultivation and increase my vitality. True God Cloudbreaker took out a bright red pill and swallowed it. But at this moment, a dreamy silver eye the size of a fist appeared above his head and floated in the air. Suddenly, icy blue rays of light shot out of it. Whoosh! These blue rays of light seeped into true God Cloudbreaker's soul, instantly freezing his thoughts and causing his soul to perish. After doing all this, the dreamy silver eye vanished. The energy Zhao Feng had used to kill true God Cloudbreaker was so weak and obscure that it would not have been noticed. Killing true God Cloudbreaker is extremely simple, but young Master Hai might notice if he tried to kill him. But he's currently cultivating. In another room, young Master Hai was immersed in a profound stellar eye bloodline technique. His eyes were glimmering with faint light, clearly calculating an eye bloodline technique. However, his complexion was extremely unsightly, most likely because his cultivation of eye bloodline techniques was not going smoothly and he had encountered a problem. Bzzz. A dreamy silver eye appeared behind him. Under normal circumstances, young Master Hai might have noticed it, but he was currently cultivating an eye bloodline technique, and his mind was extremely unsettled. Flame Soul Devil Eye. A searing illusion Tao energy engulfed him. Suddenly, Mr. C, who was in the middle of training, had a hideous look on his face. Traces of blood seeped out from his eyes. A moment later, the dreamy silver eye vanished. Within the cave a dreamy silver luster appeared in Zhao Feng's gloomy eyes. What's going on? The muscular youth had been observing Zhao Feng this entire time, and he felt that something was extremely strange. He's skilled in the soul Tao. Just now, his soul left his body. The buxom woman's eyes flashed with a strange light. We can go. Zhao Feng said. Although he hadn't directly killed young Master Hai, Zhao Feng had used the most dangerous illusion eye bloodline technique on young Master Hai. The Flame Soul Devil Eye was an illusion technique that was both offensive and confusing. At the same time, Zhao Feng had fused in it the ability to attack the weak points in one's mind. If one was struck by Zhao Feng's eye bloodline technique while cultivating, if the situation was good, their cultivation would regress, and they would be stuck for the rest of their lives. If the situation was bad, their soul would be destroyed. The muscular man and buxom woman gave Zhao Feng meaningful glances, but they said nothing. Just now, Zhao Feng had said that he would leave after killing 2 people from Black Devil Peak. If he could leave now, didn't that mean that he had already killed them? Although they found it hard to believe, this matter made the 2 of them wary of Zhao Feng. Not long after the trio left, Black Devil Peak began to hear that young Master Hai had cultivated to the point where his soul had self-detonated. Chapter 1354. A small, ancient-looking spaceship pierced through the sky at an extremely fast speed. These were the flying tools of the 2 from Giant God Hall. They had peak rank 7 speed and incredible defensive capabilities, making them extremely valuable. The Chixing Zone, where Giant God Hall was located, was separated from the Antian Zone by the Yangling Zone. Such a long distance was naturally best to use a flying tool. Along the way, Zhao Feng learned that the muscular man was called Ancient God Sundermount while the buxom woman was called Ancient God Stillmoon. Both of them were members of Giant God Hall and possessed the bloodline of the Giant God race. They are both ranked 15th among the 10,000 primordial races. Zhao Feng couldn't help but be surprised. The Giant God race was ranked 15th among the 10,000 ancient races. Legend had it that when the Giant God race activated their bloodline, their bodies would become incredibly large, and a casual attack could overturn mountains and seas. Perhaps he had underestimated these people. The 15th ranked race was definitely not as simple as it seemed on the surface. In truth, the situation is not as young Master Zhao thinks. Although the Giant God race is powerful, their bloodline is rather special. Ancient God Stillmoon was rather enthusiastic and took the initiative to introduce. Every bloodline race of the 10,000 ancient races had their own specialties. The Giant God race's bloodline was incredibly powerful, but this race also had flaws that other bloodline races did not. That was, the chances of inheriting the bloodline were relatively low, and the density of the bloodline was relatively thin, making it extremely difficult to raise. For example, although ancient god Stillmoon and ancient god Sundermount were both members of the giant god race, the density of their bloodline was so low that they did not live up to the name of the true giant god race. Thus, although they were the 15th ranked giant god race, in terms of strength, they were about the same as the 26th ranked ancient soul race. But Lord Wuheng has the purest bloodline in the giant god race. If he is given time, a look of respect appeared on ancient god Stillman's face. Zhao Feng nodded. He did not have a detailed understanding of the 10,000 primordial races. From ancient god Stillman's words, he understood that although the giant god race bloodline was powerful, there weren't many people with the giant god race bloodline, and those with a high concentration of the bloodline were even rarer. Looks like Xian Wuheng's background isn't ordinary. Zhao Feng fell into deep thought. He was certain that Xian Wuheng did not possess any bloodline when he first met him. When he thought about the giant god race god corpse in the continent zone, Zhao Feng quickly thought of something. Perhaps that god corpse was Xian Wuheng's previous life. After reincarnating, Xian Wuheng came to the god corpse and obtained the memories of his previous life, his inheritance, and his bloodline. And this giant god race god corpse was definitely a peerless expert in its previous life. This was the only way to explain why Xian Wuheng possessed the giant god race bloodline and became the Hall Master of Giant God Hall. But when he thought about it this way, there were even more strange things. Xian Wuheng had been so powerful in his previous life, so why had he fallen? Furthermore, he had died in the continent region. Moreover, why did Ancient Soul Hall want the Ancient God Seal, and why did Giant God Hall, which Xian Wuheng belonged to, also need the Ancient God Seal? These questions were probably the secrets of Giant God Hall, so Zhao Feng did not ask about them. What happened to your injury? Zhao Feng looked at ancient god Sundermount. Zhao Feng had already noticed that his soul was heavily injured. When we came to find you, the ancient soul race, ancient god Sundermount had a rather unsightly expression as he straightforwardly said. At this moment, the three of them sensed the small flying ship begin to fiercely shake. It must be ancient god Nethertootha's group. Ancient god Sundermount grimaced and ancient god Stillmoon turned grave. Bzzz. Zhao Feng couldn't help but use his left eye to see through the ship. He saw that there were 3 people around the flying ship, all of them wearing calm smiles as they attacked the ship. These 3 were all rank 8 ancient gods. The leader was a white-haired old man, the ancient god Nethertooth that ancient god Sundermount had mentioned. He was a peak rank 8, and the other 3 were a man and a woman. All 3 of them shared a common trait, their bodies were dark and translucent. Giant God Hall, obediently come out and die. The short-haired middle-aged man wickedly chuckled. Ancient soul race. Zhao Feng was able to determine this based on their appearances. Combined with the information he had obtained, Zhao Feng could easily guess that these people were from Ancient Soul Hall. How did they know where we were? It's over. Ancient God Stillmoon was worried. I'm heavily injured, and they have a peak rank 8 among them. We're no match for them. Ancient God Sundermount angrily said. We have young Master Zhao. If the 3 of us work together, we should be able to fight back. Ancient God Stillmoon immediately turned to Zhao Feng. Based on their previous interactions, she felt that Zhao Feng was no weakling. Although Brother Zhao has just broken into rank 8 and possesses extraordinary strength, Brother Zhao is skilled in the Soul Dao, and the ancient soul race is an ancient race that specializes in the Soul Dao. Ancient God Sundermount looked at Zhao Feng and shook his head. Although Zhao Feng's eye bloodline was mysterious, it was not one of the 8 great god eyes, so it wasn't very useful. And the ancient soul race was an ancient race that specialized in the Soul Dao. Zhao Feng was no match for the ancient soul race and might even be countered by them. Hiding here isn't a solution, right? Zhao Feng flatly said. Although this flying ship had good defenses, it couldn't stop the attacks of 3 rank 8 ancient gods. Swish. The three put away the flying ship and immediately appeared. There's one more person. You must be Zhao Feng, the person who holds the ancient god seal, right? The short-haired middle-aged man stared at Zhao Feng in pleasant surprise. I didn't think that by intentionally letting you live, I would actually catch a big fish. The bewitching woman next to him gave a bewitching smile. What? Intentionally letting us go? Ancient god Stillman's eyes froze. Otherwise, do you really think the two of you would be able to escape from our hands? Ancient god Nethertooth couldn't help but jeer. When ancient god Stillmoon and ancient god Sundermount learned of this, their eyes dimmed. You should recognize ancient god Black Heaven, right? Zhao Feng suddenly said. Humph, that old scoundrel volunteered to capture you, but he returned empty-handed. How embarrassing. The short-haired middle-aged man coldly said. Since that's the case, there's no need for me to show mercy. Zhao Feng's face was frigid, and a frigid killing intent began to seep out. Back then, ancient god Black Heaven and ancient god Night Dragon had worked together to pursue him, almost killing Zhao Feng. Later on, he only killed ancient god Night Dragon and allowed ancient god Black Heaven to escape. Now that ancient god Black Heaven's faction had delivered itself to his doorstep, he naturally wouldn't be polite. Zhao Feng. Ancient god Stillmoon stared in shock at Zhao Feng. Could Zhao Feng not understand the situation? Their side was clearly the weaker one. You'd best not show mercy, or else you won't be able to die in peace. The short-haired middle-aged man wildly laughed. Enough nonsense. Kill them all. Ancient god Nethertooth's expression chilled as he impatiently said. I'll fight it out with them. Ancient god Stillmoon clenched her teeth, her body exuding a powerful ancient bloodline energy. Whoosh! In a flash, the short-haired middle-aged man floated to Zhao Feng's side. Kid, you'd better not show mercy. The middle-aged man sinisterly chuckled. He could tell that Zhao Feng had only recently broken into rank 8 and that his bloodline was extremely weak, so he wasn't the least bit worried. Chaos Origin Divine Fist. Zhao Feng circulated his Chaos Origin Divine Power and unleashed a probing attack. He had never interacted with the ancient soul race of the 10,000 ancient races, but he knew that none of the top-ranked races could be underestimated. Divine power is this powerful? The short-haired man was surprised, and then he smiled. But it's too slow. Whoosh! His body transformed into a wave of black light as he dodged Zhao Feng's punch. It's my turn. The short-haired middle-aged man suddenly appeared, and casually struck out a dark palm of light. This palm of light exuded a powerful soul energy, and in the center of the palm was a lifelike dark snake that slowly twisted and flicked its tongue. A soul attack. Zhao Feng focused his left eye to analyze the attack. This palm was a soul attack with both speed and power. Swish! Zhao Feng's body flashed as he dodged the attack. Spatial blink, but what use is that? The middle-aged man was taken aback, and then he gave a wicked smile. The palm of black light that had missed turned around and continued toward Zhao Feng. As expected, there's something strange about it. Zhao Feng's expression darkened. Zhao Feng hadn't been able to analyze the snake in the palm just now, so he was certain that there was something fishy going on. Swish! Zhao Feng's body continued to blink as he dodged the palm of black light. But the palm of black light seemed to have a mind of its own and pursued him relentlessly. Crucially, Zhao Feng realized that the middle-aged man wasn't really controlling this soul attack. Zhao Feng, this is a special technique of the ancient soul race. That snake is a soul beast that they cultivate, equivalent to a beast tamer's pet. At this moment, ancient god Stillmoon, who was fighting ancient god Nethertooth, warned him. Is that so? A look of surprise appeared on Zhao Feng's face. It was no wonder that this palm of black light seemed to have a mind of its own, following him closely and showing no signs of weakening. It was actually a soul beast cultivated through a special cultivation technique. To the ancient soul race, soul beasts were their pets, but they were easier to control and could even be fused into soul attacks. Meow. At this moment, the little thieving cat jumped out of the interspatial dimension. Then let's see whose pet is stronger. Zhao Feng suddenly smiled. Since the little thieving cat had run out of its own accord, it naturally wanted to play around. He was confident that the little thieving cat also had a way to deal with the ancient soul race. Humph, any random stray cat can be compared to my soul beast. The middle-aged man snorted in anger. He formed a spell, and dark light surged around his body. At the same time, the little snake in the palm of black light gradually grew larger and larger. It flew out of the palm and began to devour it. Hiss! Hiss! The dark snake was now the size of a small house, savage and terrifying. It lunged at Zhao Feng as if it wanted to devour his soul. Meow. The little thieving cat immediately extended its paws. With a flash of silver light and runes, a silver-white cat lunged out. The silver cat's body gradually grew larger until it was even larger than the dark snake. Swoosh! The silver cat lunged at the dark snake, leaving behind several deep claw marks on its body as it furiously tore at it. That's, how do you know the ancient soul race's bloodline's secret technique, soul-devouring strike? The middle-aged man exclaimed. The attack that the little thieving cat had just used was an extremely profound secret technique of the ancient soul race, soul-devouring strike. Once it was used, it would temporarily form a soul beast that would furiously devour the opponent's soul. No, my shadow snake. The middle-aged man finally realized that his soul beast was about to die. You'll die before it does. A cold voice suddenly resounded from the middle-aged man's side. Not good. The middle-aged man grimaced. Tribulation lightning I flame. The moment Zhao Feng finished speaking, the middle-aged man's soul was ignited by a ball of lightning and flame. Boom! Hiss! Countless arcs of lightning, exuding an astonishing aura of destruction, began to explode through his body. What's going on? Ancient god Nethertooth sensed the abnormality on the other side and sent out his divine sense, upon which he grimaced. Zhao Feng actually has the advantage. Ancient god Sundermount blurted out in shock as he looked at Zhao Feng's side. The battle had barely begun, but the ancient soul race expert had been defeated by Zhao Feng. Chapter 1355. The battle hadn't even begun for a few moments, but ancient god Stillmoon was already on the back foot, forced to focus on defense by ancient god Nethertooth. On the other side, ancient god Sundermount was already injured, so he was naturally no match for the ancient soul race woman. However, the situation on Zhao Feng's side was completely unexpected. Ah! The middle-aged man struck by the tribulation lightning I flame screamed again and again. Nearby, his soul beast was also being suppressed, on the verge of being devoured by the little thieving cat's technique. As expected of an ancient soul Dao race. Their souls are far stronger than ordinary people. Zhao Feng discovered that the middle-aged man had not died after being struck by his tribulation lightning I flame. The unique trait of soul Dao races was that their bloodline power was reflected in the soul. The middle-aged man's soul was rather similar to Zhao Feng's lightning soul body, extremely solid and hard to obliterate. For this reason, this kind of race would normally be imprisoned and slowly whittled down until they died. Brat, I have to kill you. After recovering from the tribulation lightning I flame, the middle-aged man's dark and translucent soul twisted. As a member of the soul Dao race, he had a confidence in dealing with soul attacks. However, Zhao Feng's soul attack was imbued with tribulation lightning energy and inflicted massive damage to his ancient soul body. On the other side, his soul beast had also lost to Zhao Feng's pet, leaving him furious. Your soul attack is very strong, but it can't kill me. Now, I'll let you have a taste of my soul attack. The middle-aged man's body twisted into countless dark streams of water. The ancient soul race not only had powerful soul defenses, but they also had all sorts of soul attacks that were impossible to defend against. How strange. His entire body seems to have turned into a soul body, and then his soul body is converted into an attack. Zhao Feng examined his opponent in surprise. Dark Sea Soul Refinement. The dark streams of water surrounded Zhao Feng like a black curtain of water, exuding an oppressive and evil soul energy that quickly engulfed Zhao Feng. A normal person in this situation would have their soul intent affected, causing their fighting power and resistance to plummet. Die. Let me eat your soul to recover from my injuries and the loss of Shadow Snake. Sinister sneers could be heard coming from the surrounding black water. Then, the countless streams of water swirled around and instantly approached Zhao Feng's body, trying to kill his soul. He actually used this move. Ancient God Nethertooth's expression turned cold. The souls of the ancient soul race were special. When they used secret arts, they could transform their souls into attacks. Dark Sea Soul Refining was a secret art that used one's own soul to instantly suppress and rapidly refine an opponent's soul. Once successful, one could obtain the opponent's soul energy and memories. However, this technique was also extremely risky. During the casting process, the damage to the soul would be even more severe. If the technique failed, the caster's own soul would also suffer a powerful backlash. The reason why the short-haired middle-aged man had used this move was because his soul beast had been restrained, causing his fighting strength to be greatly reduced. Hence, he had used this secret technique to fight Zhao Feng directly to save his face. Humph, senior brother's soul is extremely powerful. He can definitely absorb that brat's soul in an instant. The other bewitching woman said with a smile. Not good, it's this move. Ancient God Stillman's expression turned grave. A normal person's soul was far inferior to that of the ancient soul race. They would be powerless against this move and could only wait for their soul to be refined and devoured. She and ancient God Sundermount were in a disadvantageous position, so they had no time to help Zhao Feng. However, Zhao Feng, shrouded in black water, remained unperturbed. Bzzz. He activated his left eye and observed his surroundings. This black water shroud was formed by the short-haired youth, and the majority of its substance was his soul. Although it's extremely dangerous to transform one's soul into an attack, the attack itself is also extremely powerful. Moreover, the stronger the soul, the more terrifying the attack. Zhao Feng's left eye began to analyze the secret art the short-haired man had just used. Glug. Glug. The black water shroud almost touched Zhao Feng's body and was about to refine his soul. What? This is the first time you've seen such a soul secret art. Have you already given up? A dark and transparent face suddenly appeared in front of Zhao Feng, and it began to laugh loudly. This truly is the first time I've seen this art, but I was just curious. Zhao Feng suddenly said, a faint smile on his lips. Oh no. Zhao Feng's divine altar words made the short-haired man sense that something was wrong. His soul attack had already made contact with Zhao Feng's soul, but he suddenly felt a numbing sensation. Swish. At this moment, Zhao Feng's dark violet soul suddenly exploded with countless arcs of white lightning. Tribulation lightning energy. Realizing this, the short-haired middle-aged man immediately revealed a look of horror. Glug. Transformed into a stream of black water, he quickly retreated and prepared to flee. How could this be? His soul actually has tribulation lightning energy. The middle-aged man was flabbergasted. This soul attack secret art was built on the premise that one's soul was far stronger than the opponent's. Once the two soul intents were evenly matched, the user would be the one to suffer. Moreover, Zhao Feng's soul was a complete freak. It actually contained tribulation lightning energy. Water lightning illusion prison. Zhao Feng called out. In an instant, the soul lightning emanating from his soul condensed into a lightning prison. Zhao Feng's left eye activated and turned this energy into an unbreakable cage of water lightning. Shrink. With a thought, the water lightning illusion prison began to shrink with Zhao Feng at the center. No. The short-haired man revealed a look of fear. However, the water lightning illusion prison was mainly used to imprison, so he had no way of escaping. Moreover, the water lightning illusion prison resonated with Zhao Feng's lightning soul body. The smaller the prison, the stronger it became. No, let me go. The short-haired man screamed in fear. Zhao Feng's expression was cold as his lightning soul body released powerful soul lightning that resonated with the water lightning illusion prison. It could be said that Zhao Feng's soul was a bomb. As the water lightning illusion prison shrank, the short-haired man's soul was getting closer and closer to this bomb. Boom! Hiss! The water lightning illusion prison instantly shrank to an extremely small size. In that tiny space, the short-haired man's soul was bombarded by endless lightning. Hurry and release my senior brother. At this moment, the bewitching woman pushed back ancient god Sundermount and charged at Zhao Feng. On the other side, ancient god Nethertooth was also preparing to attack. Where do you think you're going? Ancient god Stillmoon clenched her teeth and immediately activated her giant god race bloodline. In the next moment, countless dazzling white lights radiated from her body. The light shot into the sky and illuminated the entire sky. Ancient god Stillmoon's body also began to grow larger in this light, transforming into a 10,000-foot giant. At this moment, all living beings in a radius of 10,000 li felt an immense pressure. Giant God Finger. Ancient God Stillmoon thrust out a finger. This finger contained all the energy in ancient God Stillmoon's body. It was like an enormous stone pillar descending from the heavens to pulverize all. Not even ancient God Nethertooth could do anything but dodge its immense power. The might of the giant god race truly is extraordinary. Zhao Feng sighed in amazement. At this moment, not even Zhao Feng would dare to fight head-on against ancient god Stillmoon. He would choose long-range or soul attacks. Die. The tribulation lightning energy in Zhao Feng's lightning soul body exploded. In a flash, the short-haired man's soul was electrocuted to death by Zhao Feng. I'll kill you. The bewitching woman revealed a savage expression. If you want to see your senior brother so much, I'll send you to him. Zhao Feng sneered as he turned his left eye to the bewitching woman. As if sensing that Zhao Feng had locked onto her, the bewitching woman sped up and began to move around, making it much more difficult for Zhao Feng to lock onto her. But at this moment, the bewitching woman heard the meow of a cat. Not good. This cat. The bewitching woman grimaced. With the death of the middle-aged man, his soul beast's vitality was even lower, and it was immediately killed by the little thieving cat. The bewitching woman also knew how strange this cat was, so she did not dare to recklessly use her soul beast. Chaos Origin God Suppressing Seal. Zhao Feng circulated his Chaos Origin divine power, forming a massive seal that pressed forward. The appearance of the little thieving cat made the bewitching woman feel apprehensive, causing her fighting power to plummet. On the other side, ancient god Sundermount went to help ancient god Stillmoon. The two of them working together were evenly matched against the all-out ancient god Nethertooth. The situation isn't good. Ancient god Nethertooth's expression was grim. Zhao Feng's pet was extremely strange, and he was also very strong. The two people he had brought with him were no match for Zhao Feng in a one-on-one fight. And now, he was being blocked by two giant god race experts. Even if he used his trump cards, it would be very difficult for him to do much. The bewitching woman's defeat was only a matter of time. When the time came, he would have to face the combined attacks of three people and might even die here. Retreat. Knowing that the outcome was already decided, ancient god Nethertooth immediately messaged. A moment later, ancient god Nethertooth transformed into a dark streak of light and fled. "You're running away." Zhao Feng sensed that the bewitching woman was also trying to escape, so he immediately circulated his spacetime intent and fired off a palm of light. This palm of light pierced through space and landed near the bewitching woman, leaving her no place to dodge. Plush! The bewitching woman vomited blood and came to a halt. "We can't let her get away as well." Ancient god Still Moon rejoiced at the sight of Zhao Feng stopping one of them and thrust out a finger. Ancient god Nethertooth was powerful and skilled in fleeing. The two of them wouldn't be of much use in chasing after him, but this bewitching woman had been stopped by Zhao Feng for a few moments, so she could not be so easily let go. Die! Ancient god Sundermount activated his bloodline power, causing his attacks to soar. Besieged by everyone, the bewitching woman perished in less than a moment. He actually managed to push them back and even kill two of them. Once it was over, ancient god Sundermount was in disbelief. "It's all because of young Master Zhao's formidable techniques. In terms of the Soul Dao, you're even more formidable than the ancient soul race." Ancient god Still Moon immediately turned to Zhao Feng and spoke in an even friendlier tone. The victory in this battle was because Zhao Feng had instantly crushed one of the opponents and reversed the situation. Ancient god Sundermount solemnly stared at Zhao Feng, completely approving of Zhao Feng's strength. Meow. The little thieving cat immediately jumped out, indicating that it was even more formidable than its master, Zhao Feng, and that it had played a greater role. "Yes, you're also very formidable." Ancient god Still Moon giggled. They originally thought that they were doomed, but in the end, two of the ancient soul race members were killed and one fled. The members of the giant god race were indescribably happy. Ancient god Nethertooth has escaped. We need to hurry so that ancient soul hall doesn't send more experts to reinforce us. Ancient god Sundermount suggested. The three of them once more entered the simple boat and vanished. 3 years later, on a rocky mountain in the Chixing zone, an ancient flying ship flew through the clouds. "We're almost at Giant God Hall." Ancient god Still Moon rejoiced. Ever since their battle with ancient god Nethertooth's group, their journey had been smooth and uneventful, and now, they were about to return. They had also brought the ancient god seal with them. With their mission accomplished, Giant God Hall was certain to rise again. Chapter 1356. Are we almost there? Within the spacetime robe, Zhao Feng had a rough sense of what was going on in the flying ship. He had been in seclusion for the last 3 years, and he had spent the majority of his time in the spacetime robe dimension. In these 3 years, he had completely consolidated his cultivation at rank 8, his space intent had reached level 7, and his Chaos Heaven Void origin technique had reached the initial 3rd level. Besides that, he had successfully created the 4th level of the soul-splitting art, but he still hadn't split his soul. After all, splitting the soul was a dangerous matter that could not be disturbed, and after splitting the soul, there would be a short period of weakness. In addition, Zhao Feng had perfected his various eye bloodline techniques, and he had even used his cultivation technique and knowledge to create a few new eye bloodline techniques. Meanwhile, the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon had absorbed a large amount of energy. The Destruction Dragon reverse scale that Zhao Feng had duplicated had reached rank 8 long ago, and its body was in the process of transforming into a true dragon. The density of the Destruction Dragon race bloodline had also increased. It had grown the fastest in the last 3 years, and its strength had grown even faster than Zhao Feng's. Of course, this was also because of its outstanding bloodline. The strongest Destruction Dragon race of the ancient era was the sworn enemy of the Golden Crow. From this, one could see just how terrifying this bloodline was. However, the Destruction Dragon scale had been used too many times and had long ago lost its original effect. If the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon wanted to get stronger, it would need to focus on other aspects. Master, with my current strength, the average peak rank 8 ancient god is no match for me. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon immediately said when it saw that Zhao Feng had come out of seclusion. It was only able to reach its current level of cultivation because of Zhao Feng. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon was even thinking that it was fortunate that it had submitted to Zhao Feng back then. However, Zhao Feng's rapid progress placed enormous pressure on the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon. If it couldn't keep up and was left too far behind, the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon would feel very insecure. This Black Destruction Serpent Dragon. Kuan Yun enviously sighed. In the last 3 years, under Zhao Feng's guidance, he had long ago become a rank 3 true god. Moreover, his cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds, reaching the peak of rank 3. This sort of cultivation speed was something that an ordinary 5-star faction would be proud of. However, he had no sense of accomplishment when he was with people like Zhao Feng. He had even heard that Zhao Feng's former good friend, Xian Wuhan, was now the hall master of the faction that the giant god race belonged to. Kuan Yun almost died from shock. Whoosh! Zhao Feng left the space-time robe dimension. Brother Zhao, your aura is very restrained. It seems that you have completely consolidated your cultivation. Ancient God Sundermount said in surprise. Among the ranks of the ancient gods, many people's innate talents and potential had already reached the limit. They had almost made a breakthrough after going through untold hardships. Thus, it was extremely difficult for them to completely consolidate their foundations. We're almost there. Zhao Feng asked. He had sensed that the two from Giant God Hall had ended their seclusion when the flying ship had slowed, so he had determined that they were almost there. However, with his field of vision, he did not discover anything. It's in the sea ahead. Ancient God Still Moon smiled. In the sea. Zhao Feng was stunned. Puff. The flying ship went straight into the depths of the sea. After traveling for a distance and bypassing a few huge whirlpools, it finally stopped in front of a blood-colored coral field. After disembarking, the pair went to a certain part of the blood-colored coral and formed a spell. A gloomy passage immediately appeared in front of them. The three of them passed through the passage and arrived at a vast and boundless land. This was a place devoid of clouds, for 10,000 li majestic mountains covered the land, and many of these mountains had palaces on them. It's so well hidden. Zhao Feng was stunned. It was no wonder he had never heard of Giant God Hall. One had to realize that the Giant God race, ranked 15th among the 10,000 ancient races, was extremely eye-catching, but its faction was so well hidden that almost no one knew of it. There's a reason for this. You'll understand when the time comes. Ancient God Still Moon sighed and said no more. At this moment, divine senses swept out from the nearby palaces. Then, a few figures jumped out of the palace. In the distance, a golden-armored ancient god expert immediately flew over. Ancient God Sundermount, Ancient God Still Moon, you've returned. Who is this person? The golden-armored ancient god gave a greeting before turning to Zhao Feng, a hint of hostility in his eyes. The owner of the ancient god seal. Ancient God Sundermount straightforwardly said. The moment he said this, the golden-armored ancient god immediately asked, then why did you bring him here? The golden-armored ancient god's meaning was clear. Taking back the ancient god seal was enough. He shouldn't have brought Zhao Feng here. He was invited by Lord Wuhan. Ancient God Stillman's expression chilled. After her battle with ancient God Nethertooth and their 3 years together, the two of them had a good relationship. Ancient God Stillman's opinion of Zhao Feng had gradually improved. Upon hearing the words Lord Wuhan, the golden-armored man immediately lowered his head. At this moment, a loud and clear voice resounded from the countless mountains, Still Moon, invite the guest to my place. The entire world instantly fell silent as everyone lowered their heads in worship. Zhao Feng determined that the speaker was Xian Wuhan, but he couldn't tell which mountain the voice was coming from. Let's go. Ancient God Still Moon led Zhao Feng through the mountains until they arrived in front of an ancient yellow mountain. At the summit of this mountain was a simple and unadorned palace. A tall and straight figure stood in front of the palace. His appearance was ordinary, but the temperament and demeanor he exuded made people feel that he was extraordinary. He stood there quietly, but he seemed to have merged with the entire mountain. He was tall and imposing, making people feel ashamed of their inferiority. "Zhao Feng, long time no see. Come in and have a chat." Xian Wuheng casually smiled. "You truly are unfathomable." Zhao Feng sighed as he entered the palace. Even though he had learned of Xian Wuheng's unordinary nature in the continent zone, the actual situation had far exceeded his expectations. Ever since Zhao Feng entered the ancient desolate realm of gods, he had encountered one fortuitous encounter after another, even reaching rank 7, but he was still far inferior to Xian Wuheng. Based on what Zhao Feng sensed, Xian Wuheng was at least a rank 9 ancient god, but he was even more unfathomable than any rank 9 ancient god he had ever met. "I originally believed that you would need at least 500 years before we could meet again. I didn't think that you would progress so quickly." After sitting down, Xian Wuheng began to carefully examine Zhao Feng. 500 years. Zhao Feng faintly smiled. Any other true god that came to the ancient desolate realm of gods from another dimension would find it very difficult to reach Zhao Feng's level in another 1,000 years. But Xian Wuheng was able to predict 500 years, so he clearly knew that Zhao Feng's left eye was extraordinary. "I'll return it to you." Zhao Feng took out the ancient god seal. This item had always been Xian Wuheng's. In the last 3 years, he had studied the ancient god seal many times, and the more he studied it, the more he realized that the ancient god seal was not simple. In the end, he understood one thing: the ancient god seal had not been completely refined by him, because the ancient god seal had always had an owner, and that was Xian Wuheng. Bzzz. The ancient god seal automatically floated to Xian Wuheng's side. Gradually, it began to exude a powerful aura. The surface of the ancient god seal was shrouded in white crystalline light. Another layer of the seal was undone, and the ancient god seal exuded the aura of a supreme quality divine artifact. "You already know." "Yes, this ancient god seal is the token of the Hall Master of the ancient god Hall." Xian Wuheng was rather surprised as he put away the ancient god seal. Ancient God Hall. Wasn't Xian Wuheng's faction Giant God Hall? What did it have to do with this ancient God Hall? 300 million years ago, there was a top-class 5-star faction in the Chixing Zone called Ancient God Hall. Even in the entire ancient desolate realm of gods, it was quite famous. Ancient God Hall was managed by 2 major races, the Giant God race and the Ancient Soul race. Xian Wuheng slowly said, a hint of reminiscence in his voice. As it turned out, the Chixing Zone had no Giant God Hall or Ancient Soul Hall, only the 5-star superpower Ancient God Hall. The supreme ruler of Ancient God Hall was the Giant God race, but the unique trait of the Giant God race was that their bloodline had a rather low chance of being passed on, and their bloodline density was also low. Very few of them had a high bloodline density, so they gradually declined. The Ancient Soul race had more people, and although they were not ranked as high as the Giant God race, their bloodline density was higher and their methods were bizarre. They were dissatisfied with the current situation and schemed for a long time. In the end, they seized the throne and defeated the Giant God race. From then on, Ancient God Hall was renamed Ancient Soul Hall. Only a few of the old monsters of the ancient desolate realm of gods knew of these secrets. So that's how it is. Zhao Feng's face was filled with shock as he listened to everything. He finally understood why Giant God Hall was hidden in such a well-hidden place. This was because Giant God Hall was still far weaker than Ancient Soul Hall, and Ancient Soul Hall would not let the Giant God race go. When I was surrounded by the Ancient Soul race, before my divine soul was destroyed, I barely managed to open a path to the outer zone, but my physical body ended up in the continent zone. Even though my divine soul was destroyed and I could not be reborn from a drop of blood, as a God Lord, I could use my origin mark to reincarnate. Xin Wuheng said with a complicated expression. Zhao Feng had long ago expected this. But he had never imagined that in his previous life, Xin Wuheng was one of the strongest God Lords of the giant God race. Thus, when Xin Wuheng came to the ancient desolate realm of gods and inherited the position of Hall Master, no one objected. Why did you give such a precious ancient God seal to me back then? Zhao Feng asked another question. The ancient God seal had originally been a supreme quality divine artifact, and it seemed to have other secrets. Xin Wuheng had given such an important item to Zhao Feng back in the continent zone. He found this rather hard to believe. When I inherited the bloodline and physical body of my previous life, ancient Soul Hall sensed my existence. I predicted that a true God would descend upon the continent zone and bring with it a storm of destruction, so I gave each item from my previous life a legacy for you to choose from. One reason was to compensate you, and the other was to increase your strength to deal with the upcoming danger. As for the ancient God seal, you took it after passing the test. Xin Wuheng chuckled. He had not given the ancient God seal to Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng had relied on his own abilities to take it. Moreover, when Xin Wuheng inherited the power of his previous life and entered the ancient desolate realm of gods, he had been repeatedly pursued by ancient Soul Hall. The ancient God seal was so important that it could not fall into the hands of ancient Soul Hall. Thus, he planned to give it to someone else for safekeeping. But safekeeping the ancient God seal was also a kind of danger. A normal person would not be able to do it. Do you want to know the secret of the ancient God seal? Xin Wuheng suddenly asked. Zhao Feng froze. He naturally knew that the secret of the ancient God seal was extremely important. But Xin Wuheng had no intention of hiding it from Zhao Feng. After all, you helped me greatly and can be considered half an owner of the ancient God seal. It's only right that you know about it. Xin Wuheng prepared to reveal the secret. But at this moment, an incomparably heavy and oppressive energy descended upon the hall. It had to be known that the moment Zhao Feng entered this place, the hall had been surrounded by a defensive domain. However, that mysterious expert's aura ignored the defensive barrier and descended upon them. This energy was as heavy as a mountain. Even through the domain, Zhao Feng was unable to move. He felt like an insignificant ant, his life in the hands of another. He had experienced this feeling once before. God Lord. Zhao Feng was startled. Having met God Lord Heavenly Solitude before, he was able to determine the cultivation level of this person based on this intent. Wuheng, you plan to tell the secret of the giant God race to an outsider? An elderly and dignified voice resounded through the hall. Chapter 1357. Wuheng, you plan to tell the secret of the giant God race to an outsider? An elderly and dignified voice resounded through the hall. He has been the one guarding the ancient God seal for me this entire time, and he even personally came to return it to me, so I trust him. Xin Wuheng had a calm expression. Zhao Feng knew that the ancient God seal contained a major secret, but he still came here and handed it over. Thus, telling Zhao Feng the secret of the ancient God seal was understandable. Back then, my giant God race also deeply trusted the ancient soul race, but what happened in the end? The elderly voice resounded once more, its words tinged with emotion, helplessness, and anger. Those not of my race will always have different intentions. Before Xin Wuheng could speak, the elderly voice, suffused with boundless majesty, resounded through the world. At the same time, almost all the members of Giant God Hall walked out of their residences and sorrowfully looked up at the sky. Zhao Feng, don't take it to heart. The Grand Elder isn't targeting you. Xin Wuheng knew that the Grand Elder had a deep hatred for the ancient soul race, so he stopped arguing and spoke to Zhao Feng. In his view, the giant God race was like this because it was too reliant on its bloodline, and it believed that its bloodline was superior, so it disdained the weaker ancient races. It lived too peacefully and without any sense of danger, resulting in such a tragedy. After experiencing all this, the giant god race had come to a profound understanding. Once it revived, it would be unstoppable and unstoppable. But now that the giant god race was facing a crisis from ancient Soul Hall, it needed a chance to rise again. Wuheng, we've got what we want. Send him away. The Grand Elder continued. If the giant god race wanted to rise again, it needed the ancient god seal. I need his help. Xian Wuheng flatly said. What? You plan to keep him here? A furious voice resounded through the hall. Zhao Feng felt like the sky was collapsing, and he was extremely oppressive. A moment later, an elder appeared in the hall. He was tall, had dark red skin, a dignified expression, and a head of white hair. He's a rank 8 ancient god. In an ordinary faction, he truly is a top-class expert, but to the current giant god race, he's useless. The great elder shouted. In truth, Giant God Hall was currently lacking experts. If they could get another rank 8 ancient god, they would naturally be willing. However, the Grand Elder had always held a grudge against outsiders. Moreover, the giant god race was in a critical period. Nothing could be allowed to go wrong. When I was reincarnated, I spent some time with Zhao Feng. I know him well. He has the ability to help me, but whether he is willing to help me or not, I have to ask him first. Xian Wuheng suddenly stood up, unleashing a powerful bloodline aura that weakened the pressure on Zhao Feng. Since you value him so much, let me test him to see if he has the ability to do so. The Great Elder's expression did not change as he stared at Zhao Feng. Previously, he didn't care much about Zhao Feng, but he believed in Xian Wuheng's flame light, so he was slightly interested in Zhao Feng. If you want to stay here, you have to fight with my nominal disciple. Otherwise, you can leave directly. The Grand Elder said to Zhao Feng. Xian Wuheng grimaced. The Grand Elder's nominal disciple, ancient god Qing Yun, had reached peak rank 8 not long ago and possessed extraordinary strength. However, he believed that Zhao Feng could defeat him. However, the Grand Elder's threatening method might make Zhao Feng unhappy and cause him to leave. This junior is willing to try. Zhao Feng's expression was indifferent. He truly did come here with the intention of helping Xian Wuheng, but this God Lord's attitude toward him was truly displeasing. Since that was the case, he would use his strength to prove himself and give the other party a vicious slap in the face. Moreover, after 3 years of seclusion, Zhao Feng had gotten much stronger, but he had never fought in a real battle, so his hands were still itching. Xian Wuheng faintly smiled at Zhao Feng's reply. Okay. The Grand Elder bellowed. Circulating his energy, he took Zhao Feng with him and left the hall. At the same time, a voice resounded through the hall, Wuheng, the ancient god seal is in hand. Go and make your preparations. I will deal with this brat. In a flash, Zhao Feng realized that he had arrived in a spacious area. This place had a circumference of tens of thousands of li and was protected by a protective array. Suddenly, there was a ripple in space, and then a golden-armored man appeared. Master, what business do you have with this disciple? Ancient god Qing Yun respectfully bowed. You can have a spar with this outsider until a victor is decided, the Grand Elder indifferently said. The Grand Elder indifferently said. Of his disciples, only ancient god Qing Yun had a similar cultivation level to Zhao Feng. Although ancient god Qing Yun was only a nominal disciple, he had the bloodline of the giant god race and possessed extraordinary strength. If a low-level outsider like Zhao Feng could defeat ancient god Qing Yun, it would mean that he truly did possess terrifying talent and might prove useful to the giant god race. Zhao Feng's eyes flashed. This ancient god Qing Yun was actually the golden-armored ancient god who had treated him with extreme hostility when he first entered Giant God Hall. At the same time, more and more people began to gather outside the array. I heard that outsider wants to have a match with the Grand Elder's nominal disciple, ancient god Qingyun. How could a low-level outsider be a match for ancient god Qingyun? The crowd began to chatter. Please enlighten me. The moment Qingyun spoke, he activated his giant god race bloodline. In a flash, the world began to glow brightly, and an enormous golden-armored giant appeared, exuding an immense pressure. Ancient god Qingyun had activated his bloodline, clearly intending to end this battle as quickly as possible. After all, he had no interest in outsiders, and he was fighting for his master, so he needed to win with absolute advantage. This person's body is much larger than ancient god Stillman's. Zhao Feng's eyes flashed. The giant god race bloodline could not be underestimated. Giant god blazing wind palm. The nearly 10,000-foot-tall ancient god Qingyun swung his palm, blotting out the sun. In a flash, the entire region was engulfed in fierce gales. Suddenly, an enormous palm of wind shot toward Zhao Feng. Swish! Zhao Feng immediately used spatial blink to escape ancient god Qingyun's attack range. Boom! Bang! The palm struck the ground, carving out a deep chasm. The power of the attack was enough to make one tremble in fear. That's all there is to this. That outsider's bloodline is so low-level that he can't even compare to ancient god Qingyun. Ancient god Qingyun has gotten much stronger. His wind intent has reached the peak of level 6, and with the addition of the giant god race bloodline, that brat can only dodge. The spectators began to cry out in alarm. At this moment, a bewitching man with purple and blood-red hair arrived and stared at Zhao Feng. This person's arrival immediately drew strange gazes from the crowd. Nan Gongsheng, just like you, he's an outsider. He wants to stay here, but his luck isn't as good as yours. He must first get past ancient god Qingyun. A young ancient god looked at the bewitching man and smiled. He will win. Nan Gongsheng flatly said. Inwardly, however, Nan Gongsheng was extremely unsatisfied. I didn't think that you were already a rank 8 ancient god. My giant god race bloodline possesses both strength and defense, and its offensive power is immense. Where can you hide? Ancient god Qingyun was like a towering giant, his two palms surging with profound wind intent. Fierce gale heaven dragon strike. Ancient god Qingyun twisted his palms, unleashing a powerful storm of energy. Ancient god Qingyun's supreme technique has an extremely large range. That brat has nowhere to hide. It seems like it's about to end. How boring. Everyone originally believed that the battle would continue for a little longer, but ancient god Qingyun immediately used his supreme technique. A dark storm dragon exuding berserk energy charged at Zhao Feng. In front of the giant dragon, Zhao Feng's tiny body was like a tiny bug, extremely fragile. This time, Zhao Feng did not dodge. His body remained motionless, but his body rippled with dazzling divine power. Chaos Origin Shattering God Fist. Fusing many intents together, Zhao Feng fiercely punched. Instantly, a gigantic shadow of a dark fist charged toward the sky at an extremely fast speed. It was as if nothing could stop it from moving forward. Bang! Bang! The massive storm dragon was pierced through by Zhao Feng's fist. One had to realize that after reaching the third level of the Chaos Heaven Void Origin technique, Zhao Feng's Chaos Origin divine power was practically unrivaled among rank 8s. How could this be? Ancient god Qingyun was stunned. Even though he was a member of the giant god race, he had actually lost to an ordinary rank 8 ancient god of a foreign race in terms of divine power. At this moment, Zhao Feng's left eye surged with powerful eye intent. A soul attack. Ancient god Qingyun grimaced. The other people outside the array also froze. When soul attacks were mentioned, the first thing they thought of was the ancient soul race. In addition, the soul truly was the giant god race's weakness. Wind Lightning Illusion World. Zhao Feng's left eye immediately unleashed a bolt of lightning. This lightning energy continued to expand, absorbing the wind energy of the world into an enormous net of wind lightning that bound ancient god Qingyun. Swish! At every moment, the wind lightning net exuded destructive wind lightning energy that inflicted enormous damage to ancient god Qingyun's soul and body. At the same time, Zhao Feng's left eye was connected to the wind lightning net, sending out powerful illusion Dao energy that, together with the paralyzing power of the lightning energy, affected ancient god Qingyun's mind and lowered his resistance. His opponent was a member of the giant god race, so small-scale eye bloodline techniques were useless. During his 3 years of seclusion, Zhao Feng had also thought of this point, so he began to research large-scale soul attacks. The wind lightning illusion world was one of them. Moreover, this eye bloodline technique was extremely flexible, and its lightning energy could be used with wood, water, and metal intents. Ancient god Qingyun screamed as he was restrained and tortured by Zhao Feng's eye bloodline technique. Zhao Feng's soul intent was already infinitely close to that of a rank 9 ancient god. Even without using his origin energy, ancient god Qingyun would find it very difficult to resist his eye bloodline technique. Zhao Feng's left eye suddenly began to ripple with eye intent. It was clear that he was about to use another eye bloodline technique. Stop! At this moment, the great elder spoke up. At this moment it was as if the world had stopped for a moment. All the power disappeared like smoke, as if it had never existed before. Victory has been decided. The great elder threw down these words and floated away. As a god lord, he was able to see many things from this brief exchange. If this battle continued, the loser would be ancient god Qingyun, so it was better to end it here so that the giant god race wouldn't lose too much face. No. How could this be? Ancient god Qingyun was extremely unwilling, but he didn't dare to defy the grand elder. With the battle over, Zhao Feng prepared to leave, but he suddenly noticed a bewitching man with violet hair in the crowd. Chapter 1358. Nan Gongsheng. Zhao Feng called out in alarm. He had never imagined that he would see Nan Gongsheng here. Whoosh! Zhao Feng flew over. The nearby members of the giant god race still didn't like Zhao Feng, but Zhao Feng had obtained the Grand Elder's approval and was rumored to have a relationship with Hall Master Wuhan, so they didn't provoke Zhao Feng. I didn't think that you'd be here. Zhao Feng faintly smiled. Nan Gongsheng was now a rank 6 true god. After all, he had inherited the power of an ancient god, and his talent for cultivation had always been superb. It was very normal for him to reach this level. What was even rarer was that the evil intent in Nan Gongsheng's body seemed to be weaker than it had been in the continent zone. When I came to the ancient desolate realm of gods, I happened to run into Xin Wuhan. I had nowhere else to go, so I followed him here. Nan Gongsheng explained. In truth, he was extremely lucky. Back then, he had offended a 4.5-star faction and almost been hunted to death. In the end, Xin Wuhan had saved his life. Xin Wuhan then helped him suppress the evil intent in his body, causing his temperament to improve. That's right, let me meet an old friend. Zhao Feng faintly smiled as he called out Kuan Yun. Nan Gongsheng. Kuan Yun. The two of them were slightly surprised and spoke at the same time. Kuan Yun stared at Nan Gongsheng. He sensed that the other had an unfathomable cultivation and couldn't help but feel a little envious. However, after inheriting a portion of ancient god Xia Yang's power, it wasn't strange for Nan Gongsheng to reach this level. Moreover, Nan Gongsheng had entered the ancient desolate realm of gods before becoming a true god. The three looked at each other and couldn't help but smile. They hadn't expected the three experts of the Hall of Gods to gather together. Now that they thought about it, so much time had passed. In the continent zone, the three had come together because of their mutual interests, but now that they weren't bound by any benefits, the three chatted as they walked, feeling unprecedentedly relaxed and carefree. In the end, Kuan Yun decided to stay here. Although this place was discriminated against by outsiders, it was much better than Black Devil Peak for him. He wanted to fight and kill in this adversity, constantly getting stronger so that he could catch up to Nan Gongsheng. To him, Zhao Feng was too far out of reach. "Oh right, Nan Gongsheng, I have something for you." Zhao Feng suddenly remembered that he had duplicated a large amount of deity elixir before. He had given a portion to Kuan Yun before, but Kuan Yun had been holding onto it, waiting for the right opportunity to use it. Whoosh! Zhao Feng took out a small glass bottle that contained some white crystal liquid. This is the Heavenly God Elixir. It has a chance of helping a Tier 9 true God break through to the next level. The lower one's cultivation, the greater the chance. Furthermore, the foundation won't be unstable. Zhao Feng gave it to them. As for when to use it, it was up to them. There is actually such a treasure. Nan Gongsheng was stunned. He could tell how precious the Heavenly God Elixir was from its medicinal effects, and he decided to directly consume it to break through to the ancient God realm. Just like that, Zhao Feng spent several days in Giant God Hall. On this day, Xian Wuheng's voice rang out in Zhao Feng's mind. "Zhao Feng, come to me." When he arrived at Xian Wuheng's hall, Zhao Feng discovered that almost all the experts of the giant god race above rank 8 were gathered here. "Wuheng, you also called him over?" The Grand Elder next to Xian Wuheng slightly frowned. The entire hall instantly fell silent. The other giant god race experts were also somewhat averse to Zhao Feng. After all, what was going to happen next was the most important secret of the giant god race. If not for the fact that the giant god race had so few members, they might not have had the chance to participate. But at this moment, an outsider had actually joined in. "Zhao Feng once helped me safeguard the ancient god seal and was even pursued by ancient Soul Hall, but he still delivered the ancient god seal to me. In order to repay him, I have decided to have him participate in this matter." Xian Wuheng solemnly said, his tone leaving no room for doubt. Many of the experts present only slightly shook their heads at these words. Zhao Feng was taken aback. He hadn't expected that Xian Wuheng, who was not even a god lord, would still be able to command such respect from the position of hall master. However, he had also heard a few things about Xian Wuheng from Nan Gongsheng. In his last life, Xian Wuheng had been a peerless genius of the giant god race. Not only was his bloodline extremely thick, his comprehension ability was also superb. In just 3,000 years, he had become a god lord and could be considered a legend in the ancient desolate realm of gods. At that time, the giant god race had placed all its hopes on him. If not for the sudden change in ancient god hall, Xian Wuheng might have become the god king who could dictate the fate of the ancient desolate realm of gods. At this time, the members of the giant god race had probably also placed all their hopes on Xian Wuheng, firmly believing that Xian Wuheng would lead them to rise. "Zhao Feng, this ancient god seal is not merely the symbol of the ancient god hall master's status, but also the key to opening the most mysterious ancestral legacy treasury of the giant god race." At this moment, Xian Wuheng finally revealed the secret of the ancient god seal. Ancestral legacy treasury. Zhao Feng's heart moved as he listened. In a distant era, the bloodline of the giant god race was thin, and their comprehension ability was average. At a certain time, their ancestor accidentally opened a mysterious treasury, allowing the race to give birth to several god lords in a few short millennia. In the end, the race became one of the apex 5-star factions of the ancient desolate realm of gods. Several god lords in a row. This ancestral legacy treasury is simply too inconceivable. Zhao Feng couldn't help but click his tongue in astonishment. If this is true, then once we can open the ancestral legacy treasury and control its benefits, the giant god race will soon be strong enough to contend against ancient Soul Hall. It was hard to imagine that the ancient god seal he had been using all this time was connected to such a major secret. "Wuheng, open the giant god race ancestral legacy treasury. The rest of you go in. I'll stand guard here," the Grand Elder indifferently said. As the strongest expert, he had given up the right to enter the treasury to stand guard over the giant god race. From this, one could see that the Grand Elder truly was thinking of the giant god race. Buzz. Bzzz. At this moment, the barrier outside the hall began to tremble. The Grand Elder's brow creased as he sent out his divine sense to communicate with the people outside. Not good. Ancient Soul Hall is attacking. The Grand Elder grimaced. If we open the treasury now, once Ancient Soul Hall attacks, we'll be finished. Damn. They actually know where we are. The upper echelon members sighed. There might be a spy. A rank 8 ancient god with a cold and sinister gaze whispered. Everyone turned to Zhao Feng in unison. For Ancient Soul Hall to attack at this crucial moment was far too strange. It was normal to suspect that there was a spy. Zhao Feng had only recently arrived and was an outsider, so he naturally became the number one suspect. Retreat for now. The Grand Elder's expression darkened as he vanished from the hall. At the same time, everyone else left. It didn't take long for all the members of Giant God Hall to gather. Retreat from this place. The Grand Elder bellowed as he took out a massive fortress made of steel. The fortress was surrounded by flying wings. It was clearly a large flying tool. A few seconds later, everyone had entered the fortress. Boom! The ancient castle rumbled as it shot up into the sky. Once it reached a certain altitude, the fortress pierced through the dimension and arrived near the sea. The distant world was pitch black, as if the end of the world was about to arrive. Remnants of the giant god race, hand over the ancient god seal and surrender. An ancient soul race god lord with a translucent body whose facial features could not be seen spoke in a cold and sinister voice. Ancient soul race, god lord Gloomhaven. The Grand Elder angrily glared. Besides God Lord Gloomhaven, Ancient Soul Hall also had another God Lord, and the total number of ancient god experts they had far surpassed the giant god race. Not good. Ancient Soul Hall is already attacking. In terms of speed, the ancient soul race far surpassed the ancient god race. Moreover, the giant god race was traveling on large flying tools, making them even slower. The other members of the giant god race understood this point. Everyone, follow me to intercept Ancient Soul Hall and give Lord Wuheng a chance to escape. The Grand Elder suddenly said. This was the best option. The fortress instantly fell silent. This was a choice that concerned their lives. But to everyone's surprise, the vast majority quickly agreed. As members of Giant God Hall, Nan Gongsheng and Xian Wuheng had no reason to run, and they did not run. Zhao Feng walked over and gave the pair some life-saving treasures. Wuheng, take a few people with you and secretly escape. Open the giant god race's treasury. The Grand Elder solemnly gazed at Xian Wuheng. At the same time, everyone in the fortress stared at their hall master. At this moment, the one under the greatest pressure was actually Xian Wuheng. Of course, we won't be fighting to the death. We just need to delay them for a few moments and then flee with all our might. The Grand Elder began to explain the strategy. At a certain moment, the ancient flying fortress of the giant god race stopped in the air. Are you going to surrender? God Lord Gloomhaven sneered. In truth, they had discovered Giant God Hall's hiding place long ago. They had waited until now to wait for the giant god race to take back the ancient god seal. After all, the ancient god seal was in Zhao Feng's hands, and the spiritual race that Zhao Feng belonged to was a tough nut to crack. You underestimate the giant god race too much. The Grand Elder flew out of the fortress, a terrifying bloodline energy erupting from him. At this moment, dazzling white light illuminated the heavens, driving away all darkness. Boom! An indescribably massive giant loomed over the earth. In a flash, mountains and rivers crumbled and the earth shattered as if the entire world had been struck by an apocalyptic calamity. Giant God Race. God Lord Gloomhaven gravely stared at the Grand Elder. The majority of the Giant God Race members had extremely thin bloodlines, and very few had very thick bloodlines. However, the Grand Elder was one of them, a true expert of the Giant God Race. In a one-on-one fight, he did not dare to fight the Grand Elder head-on. Someone just escaped from the fortress. Another God Lord of Ancient Soul Hall suddenly called out. Go after them. God Lord Gloomhaven called out, and then he vanished and appeared in front of the Grand Elder. No one should even think about getting through. The Grand Elder angrily bellowed. With a wave of his hand, a massive earthen yellow wall appeared behind him, seemingly cutting the world in two. At the same time, the other members of Giant God Hall charged forward. The moment the Grand Elder revealed his true body, Xian Wuheng led a group of people in a secret escape. Zhao Feng was also in this group. He was an outsider, so the Giant God Race naturally could not allow him to stay behind and do something like this. The top 20 ancient God Lords truly are capable of destroying the world. Zhao Feng could still see the battle between the two factions with his left eye. The Grand Elder had given Zhao Feng far more shock than God Lord Heavenly Solitude had. It was as if the Grand Elder could completely annihilate a 4.5-star faction with a stomp of his foot. Chapter 1359. Lord Wuhan, where are we going? Ancient God Chengyun asked. The Grand Elder had chosen 3 people to follow Xian Wuhan, the rank 8 Ancient God Sundermount, the peak rank 8 Ancient God Chengyun, and the peak rank 8 Ancient God Resplendence. After all, the majority of the ancient gods needed to remain on the battlefield to restrain the members of Ancient Soul Hall. 3 people was the maximum number of people that could be mobilized. Leave this place as soon as possible. Only then can our clansmen evacuate earlier. Xian Wuhan whispered. As long as they were out of danger, the remaining Giant God Race members would be able to flee. Therefore, Xian Wuhan didn't have a target now. He just needed to run as far away as he could. Someone's coming. Zhao Feng suddenly spoke. Ancient Soul Hall had the advantage in numbers and strength. Even if the Giant God Race used all its strength, it would not be able to stop everyone. Moreover, Ancient Soul Hall's true goal was the Ancient God Seal. They would naturally think of a way to break through the Chief Elder's defenses. How's the situation? Xian Wuheng asked directly. Everyone was stunned. They hadn't sensed anything, but Xian Wuheng trusted Zhao Feng completely and asked directly. 1 rank 9 Ancient God and 2 rank 8s. Zhao Feng used his own observations to determine the other party's cultivation. These 3 members of Ancient Soul Hall quickly entered the range of their senses. That's true. Ancient God Resplendence found this somewhat hard to believe. Could Zhao Feng's divine sense be stronger than theirs? There are only 3 of us. Even if they catch up, they won't be able to do anything to us. Ancient God Chengyun breathed a sigh of relief. If it was a large army chasing them, perhaps even a half-step God Lord or a God Lord, then the only thing that awaited them was death. No, they probably don't intend to fight us. Zhao Feng suddenly spoke. Ancient God Chengyun and the others were confused for a moment, and then they understood. They won't be a match for us in a fight. I'm afraid their goal is to follow us. Ancient God Resplendent's expression darkened. As long as those 3 didn't lose track of them, Ancient Soul Hall would be able to send reinforcements. At that time, the Giant God Race would find it difficult to escape. Damn it, it's actually like this. Ancient God Sundermount was furious. The Ancient Soul Hall trio maintained a certain distance from them, neither following nor falling behind. It was extremely difficult for them to shake off the other party completely. But if they fought back, the Giant God Race would definitely not accept the challenge. If they focused on dodging, the Giant God Race would not be able to do anything to them. Moreover, if they chose to counterattack and did not end things quickly, they would be delaying the giant god race and placing them in an even more dangerous situation. For a moment, the 4 members of the giant god race, including Zhao Feng, all turned grim. I have an idea. In the depressing atmosphere, Zhao Feng suddenly spoke. The 4 members of the giant god race were pleasantly surprised. What is it? Xin Wuheng immediately asked. The situation was so urgent that even he could do nothing about it. I'll stay, you guys go first, 400,000 kilometers away. As long as we don't lose track of them, once Ancient Soul Hall sends reinforcements, we can wipe them out in one fell swoop and take back the Ancient God Seal. The leading black-robed elder of the Ancient Soul race sneered. Their goal was the Ancient God Seal. Compared to the Ancient God Seal, killing the members of the giant god race was not that important. Elder, just what is the Ancient God Seal in the hands of the giant god race? To actually make Ancient Soul Hall go through so much trouble? A red-skinned man asked. He was not a member of the Ancient Soul race and did not know many things. A long time ago, Ancient Soul Hall was jointly ruled by the Ancient Soul race and the giant god race. The reason the Ancient Soul race turned on each other and murdered the giant god race was because of the Ancient God Seal. The black-robed old man said with a smile. What is the secret of the Ancient God Seal? The red-skinned man listened attentively and asked. What secrets did the Ancient God Seal hide to make the 2 races turn against each other? This Ancient God Seal can open the giant god race's ancestral legacy treasury. Did you know that it was precisely because of this ancestral legacy treasury that the giant god race was able to produce 2 god lords in just several thousand years? The other 2 rank 8 ancient gods were flabbergasted by these words. Apart from god kings, god lords were the absolute experts of the ancient desolate realm of gods. This is too powerful. I must get it. The 2 rank 8 ancient gods immediately revealed looks of greed. It's rumored that the ancestral legacy treasury doesn't just contain the secret to becoming a god lord. It might also involve the mythical races ranked in the top 10 of the 10,000 ancient races. The black-robed old man said softly. One of the top 10 ancient races. The other 2 ancient gods felt their hearts tremble. Even a race as powerful as the giant god race was only ranked 15th, and the top 10 were all forbidden races that had almost gone extinct in the ancient desolate realm of gods. For example, the 7th-ranked light race, the 8th-ranked Golden Crow race, and the 9th-ranked Destruction Dragon race were all forbidden existences of legends. And this ancient treasury was actually connected to one of the top 10 ancient races. Elder, the situation has changed. The red-skinned man paused. What's going on? That kid stayed behind to stop us in order to protect the giant god race. The other rank 8 ancient god couldn't help but smile. Through their divine senses, they could sense that Zhao Feng had suddenly stopped while the others swiftly teleported away. Their divine senses could sense that there was no change in the soul auras of the fleeing people. This meant that this was not a trick. Xin Wuheng's group had truly left. Kill him as quickly as possible. We can't lose him. The black-robed elder's eyes flashed with cold light. Swish. 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 A moment later, the 3 of them used instant movement to get close to Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng, I truly admire your righteousness. You're actually willing to sacrifice your life for the giant god race, but there's no point in you trying to stop us. The black-robed elder roared, powerful ripples of soul energy erupting from his body. Relax. Once you die, they'll quickly come to keep you company. The red-skinned man wickedly chuckled. 2 rank 8 ancient gods and 1 rank 9 ancient god immediately attacked, intending to instantly kill Zhao Feng. But Zhao Feng stood his ground, his expression unperturbed. Did none of you see that this is a trap? Zhao Feng faintly smiled. Oh no. The black-robed elder's expression darkened. Although he still hadn't sensed anything strange, Zhao Feng's words made him feel even more ill at ease. But Zhao Feng's words might just be delaying for time. No matter what, he had to kill him first. Soul Destruction Wave. The black-robed elder circulated his soul energy and prepared to unleash a powerful soul attack. Come out. Zhao Feng's left eye immediately began to turn. Bzzz. Swoosh. 4 vortexes of eye intent suddenly appeared in front of him, revealing 4 figures. This is a spatial technique. The black-robed elder immediately understood. It turned out that when Zhao Feng had placed a mark on the 4 members of the giant god race, they had only escaped the range of the ancient Soul Hall members' divine senses, but not completely escaped. Now that ancient Soul Hall was approaching, Zhao Feng used the mark to use spatial movement to instantly teleport the 4 members of the giant god race. Ancient Soul Hall, die. The moment ancient god resplendence appeared, she circulated her bloodline power and punched. Although her body had not grown larger, the image of an enormous arm appeared around her fist, suffused with immense power. Giant God Finger. Xin Wuheng activated his bloodline power, gathered the energy of the world, and thrust out a finger. Around that plain finger light, a giant shadow of a finger suddenly appeared. It gathered the power of Earth Upanishad between heaven and earth. It was like a pillar that could hold up the sky as it shot out. Even before this finger descended, the members of Ancient Soul Hall were already under immense pressure. The blood in the bodies of the 2 rank 8 ancient gods froze, and they couldn't even move or flee. The black-robed elder stared in shock at this sight. The majority of the giant god race members didn't have very terrifying fighting power, but the true members of the giant god race with a thick bloodline possessed destructive power. For example, the current Xin Wuheng made him not even have any thoughts of fighting back. Ancient Soul Body Change. The black-robed elder stopped his soul attack and used a different secret art. A moment later, his body turned pitch black and transparent, as if he had completely become a soul body. Ancient god attacks could penetrate the soul, so soul bodies were immune to the majority of cold. However, the ancient soul race possessed extremely formidable soul defenses. When using this secret art, they could normally block a fatal blow from an expert a minor level higher than them. Boom! Bang! Crash! At this moment, the attacks of the giant god race exploded forward. Humph! A bunch of clowns. Ancient God Cheng Yun coldly snorted. In a direct clash, the 3 members of Ancient Soul Hall were instantly killed. At this moment, whoosh! In the explosion, a weak black light quickly leaped out. Not good. That rank 9 ancient god used a secret art to escape. Ancient God Sundermount called out in alarm. In soul form, one's speed was several times that of an ordinary ancient god, making it extremely difficult to catch up. Suddenly, an eye intent flashed past. Crack. The black-robed elder, who had just fled more than 100,000 li away, was struck by a ball of tribulation lightning flame. The elder's soul had been severely injured after escaping from the attacks of the giant god race, and now he was struck by Zhao Feng's tribulation lightning eye flame. After struggling for a few moments, the elder was dead. Dead! Ancient God Cheng Yun was shocked. The others couldn't help but look at Zhao Feng. He was naturally the one who had unleashed that eye bloodline technique. But even though it was clearly an instantaneous eye bloodline technique, Zhao Feng seemed to have seen through it from the very start. He knew the black-robed elder's path of escape, and his eye bloodline technique was so precise that it instantly killed the weakened elder. Let's go! Xin Wuheng called out. Every second they wasted here was paid for with the lives of the other members of the giant god race. Swish! 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 The group hurriedly used instant movement to flee. A day later, the group stopped in a desolate and sparse area of Yuanqi. What's the situation? Xin Wuheng looked at Zhao Feng. I didn't find anything. We should be safe. Zhao Feng said. Lord Wuheng, what should we do next? Ancient God Sundermount immediately asked. Open the Ancestral Legacy Treasury. All of you, come with me. Xin Wuheng solemnly said. The others immediately trembled. They had only ever heard about the Ancestral Legacy Treasury controlled by the giant god race, but they had never seen it for themselves. We must obtain enormous benefits from the Ancestral Legacy Treasury so that the giant god race can rise again. Ancient God Qing Yun patted his chest and said. The group traveled underground and laid down a concealment array. Swish! Xin Wuheng took out the ancient god seal and prepared to open the Ancestral Legacy Treasury. Chapter 1360. In the underground dimension, Xin Wuheng quickly laid down a secret Heaven's Legacy array. The ancient god seal was clearly connected to the Heaven's Legacy race. In order to use the ancient god seal to open the Ancestral Legacy Treasury, one needed to have some understanding of the Heaven's Legacy race's culture and arts. The ancient god experts of the giant god race all knew that the giant god race's legacy contained many of the Heaven's Legacy race's culture and arts. Only those with a certain status would have the right to comprehend them. But very few people knew that this part of the Heaven's Legacy race's legacy existed precisely to open the Ancestral Legacy Treasury. Once the array was complete, Xin Wuheng formed a series of seals with his hands. Countless dark green tadpole-like characters of various sizes surged into the array. Buzz. Bzzz. In a flash, a profound and cryptic array that normal people would find difficult to understand took form. Go. Xin Wuheng threw the ancient god seal into the center of the array. A moment later, countless green runes surged out of the array and connected to the ancient god seal. Suddenly, the ancient god seal fiercely trembled, and the green runes on it began to shine with a crystalline luster. Cling-clang. Under Xin Wuheng's control, the ancient god seal extended and began to transform. It didn't take long before a black metal door was constructed. Whoosh! A vertical slit appeared in the center of the door, from which shot out a mysterious and ancient light. Gradually, the door opened, and the dazzling light engulfed everyone. As he was engulfed by this mysterious light, Zhao Feng realized that his divine sense and senses were greatly suppressed. At the same time, he realized that his every movement seemed to be much slower than normal. Profound of time. Zhao Feng was startled. Just the light emitted from the passageway already possessed such profound time mysteries. It seemed like the Ancestral Legacy Treasury was extraordinary. Ancient God Qing Yun, Ancient God Resplendence, and the others also sensed this profound time intent. Go in. Xin Wuheng shouted in a low voice. Everyone was already impatient, and they directly rushed in. After a moment of confusion, Zhao Feng's body suddenly sank, and he appeared in the air above a patch of grass. At the same time, an ancient primordial aura surged toward him. One didn't even need to think to know that this was an extremely ancient dimension. Xin Wuheng and the others were standing next to Zhao Feng. Everyone's first reaction was to observe their surroundings. After all, no one knew anything about the Ancestral Legacy Treasury. Even Xin Wuheng was entering it for the first time. Zhao Feng was slightly surprised. After trying it out, he found that this place suppressed his divine sense and other senses to 1/10 of its original level. Originally, as an ancient god, he could control everything within 200 to 300,000 li with a sweep of his divine sense. But now, the range of his divine sense was only about 30,000 miles. Looking at the expressions of the others, they seemed to be bewildered by this powerful suppression. However, even if Zhao Feng's vision was restricted, his vision was still far beyond that of an ordinary person. He also discovered that if he fully activated his X-ray vision, his vision would be enhanced. That's not all the restrictions of this place. Xin Wuheng suddenly spoke. As soon as these words came out, everyone noticed that something was amiss. The speed of Xin Wuheng's words was slower than usual. Profound of time. Zhao Feng also felt it. After all, his time profundity had reached the peak of the 4th level. How could this be? Ancient God Sundermount was in disbelief. At this moment, everyone was speaking a little slower than usual. Let's not worry about that for now. Finding the treasury is more important. Xian Wuheng straightforwardly said. When he inherited the ancient god seal, the giant god race god lord had said that the ancestral legacy treasury was filled with treasures, opportunities, and dangers. The giant god race had once constructed a private treasury in a certain location, storing the precious resources accumulated by the giant god race. Swish! Xian Wuheng took out the ancient god seal. Through the ancient god seal, he could sense the rough location of the giant god race's treasury. With a direction in mind, the group proceeded forward while observing this isolated dimension. Look over there. Ancient god Qing Yun called out in alarm as he pointed to the left. That place happened to be within the range of their divine senses. It was a small puddle, and the one closest to the group had a few faint white flowers growing in it. They were shrouded in a faint luster and were extremely eye-catching. It's just an ordinary time origin flower. What's there to make such a fuss about? Ancient god Sundermount growled. Time intent was extremely powerful and difficult to grasp, and the cultivation resources related to it were also extremely precious. Time origin flowers were a rather common and low-level time cultivation resource. The vast majority of low-level true gods would purchase a few time origin flowers and attempt to comprehend time intent. If it was too difficult to grasp, they would simply give up. If they could comprehend something, it meant that they had the talent to cultivate time intent. It seems to me that when you were a true god, you didn't attempt to cultivate time intent. Ancient god Qingyun faintly smiled. Ancient god Sundermount's face froze. He felt that time intent was too difficult and that it didn't increase his offensive power, so he never thought about cultivating it. Zhao Feng was also listening. When he first broke into rank 7, he didn't have the experience that low-level true gods had. Time origin flowers aren't that precious, mainly because of their powerful vitality. After a long period of time, they will slowly gain the energy of time intent, and one petal means that they have lived for 100 million years. Ancient God Resplendence took in a deep breath as she stared in shock into the distance. Zhao Feng's eyes focused. The vast majority of these time origin flowers had more than 6 petals, and one of them even had 12. 120 million years. Zhao Feng muttered in shock. This was the first time he had seen such a precious cultivation material from such a long time ago. Whoosh! 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 A moment later, everyone began to fly toward the puddle. Although the time origin flower was a low-level cultivation resource, once it was more than 1 billion years old, even the most ordinary of resources would become precious. Once they finished dividing up the time origin flowers, they realized that the nearby puddle had a few other resources. These resources were of various types, but they weren't very precious to ancient gods. Crucially, however, they were all extremely old. This truly is a treasury. Ancient god Qing Yun sighed in amazement as he flew forward. Wait a moment. Xian Wuheng suddenly said. When inheriting the ancient god seal, the elders of the giant god race had said that the ancestral legacy treasury was filled with opportunities, but it was also fraught with danger. They had only discovered a few time origin flowers, so he didn't think too much about it. However, there were many resources up ahead. This place could already be considered a small land of opportunity, so danger was definitely present. Everyone's divine sense was suppressed to 1/10 of its original level, and if there was an object in the way, it would be even lower. Thus, it was best to be careful. Broom! At this moment, everyone felt the earth lightly tremble. A Yao god resembling a serpent dragon suddenly emerged from the ground in front of ancient god Qing Yun. This Yao god's body was glossy and silvery white, and its white eyes stared at the group with cold light. The moment this Yao God appeared, everyone sensed its majestic aura fusing with the invisible pressure of the world, making them feel extremely oppressive. Just a peak rank 8 actually dares to make me feel fear. Ancient God Qing Yun stared in shock at this Yao God. You disturbed my rest and even touched something on my territory. Today, I'll make you fertilizer for this land. The serpent dragon Yao God roared as its body twisted and charged forward. Swish! In a flash of silver light, the serpent dragon Yao God closed in on ancient God Qing Yun. It opened its mouth, exuding powerful ripples of divine power. So fast! Ancient God Qing Yun grimaced and immediately retreated. But he discovered that he was being hindered by powerful time intent, making his speed at least twice as slow. The Xin Wuheng activated his bloodline power and charged forward. The powerful bloodline of the giant god race greatly weakened the effects of the time intent on him. Flame Wind Palm. Xin Wuheng circulated his divine power and unleashed a wondrous intent that absorbed the wind and fire energy of the world and fused it into his attack. Kaboom! An enormous palm of wind and fire howled forward. The flame wind palm was originally a swift and explosive attack, but in this place, it was much slower. Humph, paltry tricks. The serpent dragon Yao God twisted its body, exuding a profound time intent that began to spread through the area. Xin Wuheng's attack was immediately hindered by time intent, causing it to become even slower. The serpent dragon Yao God slightly moved to avoid the attack. For a moment, everyone, including Xin Wuheng, was speechless. This Yao God has at least level 7 time intent. Zhao Feng sighed in amazement. Although time intent could not amplify the power of divine power attacks, there had to be a reason why it was considered one of the strongest intents. With Xin Wuheng's strength, an ordinary rank 9 ancient god wouldn't be able to last more than a few blows against him, but this peak rank 8 Yao God was able to contend with him. Boom! Bang! Ancient God Qing Yun was forced back several li by the peak rank 8 Yao God. But as someone with the giant god race bloodline, his defense was extremely formidable. In addition, he discovered that although this Yao God had a mighty momentum and powerful time intent that surprised everyone, its divine power attack was only close to that of a rank 9 ancient god, which wasn't too ridiculous. Together, Ancient God Resplendence called out. The group of 5 worked together to deal with the serpent dragon Yao God. After fighting for a while, the serpent dragon Yao God discovered that these humans possessed extraordinary strength. Not even its time intent was enough to deal with them. Zhao Feng also tried to use bloodline techniques to attack, but he discovered that this Yao God's soul intent was extremely tenacious and extremely resistant to soul attacks. You detestable race! The serpent dragon Yao God was grievously injured and wanted to flee. Where do you think you're going? Ancient God Resplendence bellowed as she took out a binding divine artifact. The 5 of them were attacking a rank 8 Yao God. If they allowed it to escape, they would have no face left. In the end, the 5 of them used some of their true abilities to swiftly kill the serpent dragon Yao God. After dissecting it, they discovered that the Yao God's entire body was filled with treasures. For example, the water spirit serpent spine contained the power of water and time power Upanishad. It was the best material to refine binding divine weapons. At the same time, the water spirit heart vein could increase one's life level, strengthen the crystal veins of the god body, and heal the hidden injuries. It was also a precious material to cultivate time power Upanishad. After dissecting it, they discovered that the Yao God had lived for more than 1 billion years, and it was precisely because of its age that the materials on its body were so valuable. No wonder it's so powerful and difficult to deal with. Zhao Feng said in surprise. Even the least talented cultivator would be able to sweep through their peers if they could remain at the same cultivation level for 1 billion years. It seemed like this ancestral legacy treasury was truly unusual. Chapter 1361. The Chixing Zone, the battle between Ancient Soul Hall and the giant god race had completely destroyed this region. The battle did not last long before the giant god race hastily retreated. Ancient Soul Hall was also busy searching for Xian Wuheng and the ancient god seal, so they did not continue to fight. In the black palaces high in the sky, the atmosphere was extremely oppressive. Lord Gloomhaven, we haven't found any trace of Xian Wuheng's group. A member of Ancient Soul Hall kneeled on the ground, his body trembling. A bunch of useless fools. God Lord Gloomhaven immediately bellowed from the highest part of the hall. When the giant god race had disregarded everything to stop them, they had used all their strength to break through a gap and send out 3 ancient gods. They had also warned them to just follow Xian Wuheng's group. But not only could they not complete such a simple mission, they had even lost their lives. The upper echelon members of Ancient Soul Hall had ugly and gloomy expressions. They had waited for the right moment to launch a sneak attack, but Xian Wuheng had still managed to escape with the ancient god seal. If the giant god race really did open the ancestral legacy treasury and obtain some great fortune, they might instantly grow stronger. At that time, Ancient Soul Hall would be in grave danger. God Lord Gloomhaven, why are you so angry? Right at this moment, a relaxed and aged voice suddenly resounded in the hall. Everyone in the hall grimaced. For someone to dare to act so happy in front of God Lord Gloomhaven at a time like this was truly reckless. Swish! An old man and a young man suddenly appeared in the hall. The old man was tall and muscular, his entire body covered in ancient runes. His white beard trailed to the ground, and he held a silver wooden staff in his hand. His eyes were as deep as the starry sky as he stared at God Lord Gloomhaven. The young man next to the old man had a similar appearance to the old man, but he was extremely handsome and refined. Who is it? The upper echelon members in the hall grimaced. The palaces they were in were protected by an array, and the conference hall was also protected by an array. But this old man and young man had entered this place as if there was no one around. What shocked them even more was that they still didn't know how the two of them had entered this place. God Lord Stellar Aspect, you've finally come. God Lord Gloomhaven suddenly calmed down and looked at the old man. God Lord. Now that God Lord Gloomhaven had spoken, everyone knew that this newcomer was not an enemy, but the identity of this elder startled them. As you expected, we did not find the ancient god seal. God Lord Gloomhaven added. When Ancient Soul Hall was preparing to attack the giant god race, God Lord Stellar Aspect told him that he would not be able to obtain the ancient god seal. God Lord Gloomhaven was furious at the time. Ancient Soul Hall was so powerful that it could not deal with the remnants of the giant god race. Thus, he made up his mind to seize the ancient god seal. But in the end, it still failed. What? This God Lord already predicted this. The hearts of the people in the seats trembled once more, and they could not calm down for a long time. Everyone looked at the old man and the young man with extreme solemnity, but they realized that they could not see through them. It was as if the other party was a divine master, but they had not noticed it before. I was delayed by some matters. Have you finished what I asked you to do? God Lord Stellar Aspect smiled. Everything is ready. Please. God Lord Gloomhaven immediately stood up. The giant god race had probably already opened the ancestral legacy treasury, so Ancient Soul Hall could only rely on God Lord Stellar Aspect to salvage the situation. Afterward, the two God Lords and all the experts in the hall moved to a secret location. This was an isolated dimension with a massive stone platform. On the stone platform was an array formed of gold and silver light. Above the array was a hazy diagram of light that looked like a starry sky. When the giant god race opened the ancestral legacy treasury, we followed your orders and determined the rough location of the ancestral legacy treasury. God Lord Gloomhaven wickedly smiled. The ancestral legacy treasury was an isolated dimension. Its movements were erratic, and it could drift to any part of the fan universe. When the giant god race opened the ancestral legacy treasury, they used special methods to determine the approximate location of the treasury. Does Sir really have a way to open the ancestral legacy treasury again? God Lord Gloomhaven probed. He had once been a member of Ancient Soul Hall, so he had some understanding of the ancestral legacy treasury. Not only did the treasury move erratically, it could only be opened through the ancient god seal. Open the ancestral legacy treasury again. The many experts of Ancient Soul Hall stared in shock at the old man and the young man. Although that dimension can only be opened through the ancient god seal, that dimension has existed for countless years. Coupled with the fact that there is no one controlling it, the dimension itself should have many holes. God Lord Stellar Aspect calmly said. From these words, everyone knew that he was confident in opening the ancestral legacy treasury again. In terms of understanding of that dimension, not even the giant god race ancestor who obtained the ancient god seal can compare to this old man, so you can be at ease. God Lord Stellar Aspect gave a confident smile. God Lord Stellar Aspect must be joking. How could the giant god race compare to Sir? God Lord Gloomhaven heartily laughed. The other ancient god experts became more and more shocked as they listened to the conversation between the two god lords. Just who was this God Lord Stellar Aspect that had suddenly appeared? God Lord Gloomhaven treated him with such respect, and he was even able to establish a path to the ancestral legacy treasury. He even claimed that his understanding of the ancestral legacy treasury far surpassed that of the giant god race. Swish! God Lord Stellar Aspect took out an enormous octagonal metal platform. A secret Heaven's Legacy array had been laid down on it. 108 small holes had been set up around the array, and extremely rare stones and treasures were embedded within them. In the center of the array was a sparkling white ball of light. The ripples of divine power it exuded caused everyone to involuntarily raise their eyebrows. This is a supreme quality God crystal. There's no need for me to elaborate on the wealth and resources required to lay down this array. If Ancient Soul Hall does not follow my orders in this operation, they will bear the consequences. God Lord Stellar Aspect's expression suddenly turned cold. Supreme quality God crystal. God Lord Gloomhaven's eyes froze. In the ancient desolate realm of gods, just like the top 10 ancient races, supreme quality God crystals were almost extinct. They were extremely rare and priceless treasures. The supreme quality God crystal in the center of the array seemed rather damaged, but its value was still immeasurable. God Lord Stellar Aspect's final words of "bear the consequences" did not make him angry. On the contrary, they made him extremely solemn. Now, this array can send around 10 experts below the God Lord level into it. God Lord Stellar Aspect indifferently said. The moment he finished speaking, God Lord Gloomhaven immediately began to select members. All the upper echelon members began to fight over the spots. The ancestral legacy treasury was rumored to contain the secret to becoming a God Lord. For ancient God experts, their greatest wish was to become a God Lord. No matter how dangerous it was, they were willing to try. First, God Lord Gloomhaven chose the only 3 half-step God Lords of Ancient Soul Hall. Next were rank 9 ancient gods and peak rank 8 ancient gods. My disciple will be the commander of this operation. God Lord Stellar Aspect suddenly said. Everyone turned to look. Although God Lord Stellar Aspect's disciple was young, he was also a rank 9 ancient god. God Lord Gloomhaven immediately removed one person. In the end, the 10-man team was smoothly formed. Yu Heng, let's go. God Lord Stellar Aspect called out. Within the ancestral legacy treasury, Zhao Feng's group carefully advanced. They had already been in the ancestral legacy treasury for a month now. Because of the suppression of the profound of time, everyone's speed was relatively slow. Moreover, this place also suppressed magical abilities such as spatial teleportation. Moreover, this place was fraught with danger, so they didn't dare to recklessly use instant movement. Thus, they hadn't traveled very far in 1 month. Ah, this ancient god seal can only sense the direction. I don't know how far it is. Xian Wuheng sighed. After traveling for a month, they still hadn't found the treasury left behind by the giant god race. Look up ahead. Ancient God Resplendence suddenly said. In the distance was a massive black mountain, shrouded in a thick black fog. As they approached, Zhao Feng noticed that there were a few extremely old low-level resources growing on the edge of the black mountain. This mountain is in the same direction as the ancient god seal. Could the treasury left behind by the giant god race be up there? Ancient God Qingyun whispered. The group couldn't help but approach the black mountain. The closer they got, the more they realized that the quality of the resources growing around them was increasing. There were even times when one or two resources that even rank 8 ancient gods would covet would appear. But this time, they did not recklessly move. This place was clearly a treasure ground, and it was assuredly accompanied by danger. Meow. At this moment, the little thieving cat suddenly leapt out and gestured at Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng looked forward and activated his see-through ability, allowing him to see even further than his divine sense could. Let's go. Zhao Feng suddenly called out. What's going on? Xian Wuheng asked. A horde of Yao gods. There's a horde of Yao beasts occupying this black mountain. Zhao Feng immediately said. These words instantly made everyone's scalps go numb. The Yao gods of this place were far stronger than those of the outside world because of time intent. In the past month, they had encountered quite a few Yao gods, almost all of whom had high-level time intent and were extremely difficult to deal with. And now, they were actually approaching a horde of Yao gods. Let's go. Without another word, the group began to flee. Time intent was simply too powerful. If they were targeted by a horde of Yao beasts, they would find it very difficult to escape. This mountain is too dangerous. I hope that the treasury isn't up there. Xian Wuheng took in a deep breath as he circled around the black mountain and continued forward. The more they experienced, the more they feared the ancestral legacy treasury. Even as ancient gods, if they weren't careful, they could lose their lives here. After circling around the black mountain, the ancient god seal still pointed them in the same direction. The group rejoiced and continued forward. Suddenly, the white halo of light on the ancient god seal intensified. We're almost there. The giant god race treasury. Xian Wuheng excitedly said. Although the ancestral legacy treasury was filled with treasures, it was far too dangerous. As for the giant god race, the treasury that the giant god race had left here posed no danger to them. Soon, a huge dark yellow castle appeared in front of everyone. The giant god race treasury. Ancient God Resplendence rejoiced. She hadn't expected for the giant god race treasury to be not far from the Black Mountain. As long as they could obtain everything in the treasury, their mission would be basically complete, and they would be able to account to the other members of their race. Something's not right. Zhao Feng suddenly said. Through the observation of his left eye, he could see many unique marks around the treasury built by the giant god race, as well as remnants of various auras. As they got closer, Zhao Feng was able to clearly see what was going on, and he grimaced. The giant god race treasury seems to have been occupied by a horde of Yao gods. Zhao Feng revealed a piece of news that struck the giant god race like a bolt of lightning. Chapter 1362. Within the group of black palaces in the sky, success. God Lord Gloomhaven couldn't help but rejoice. Earlier, he had been worried that there might be a problem with the teleportation array, so he had suggested using a Yao beast to test it out. However, God Lord Stellar Aspect's disciple had been the first to enter the array, eliminating all of his doubts and misgivings. After all, God Lord Stellar Aspect would not play around with the life of his disciple. Moreover, each teleportation consumed an enormous amount of energy. After 10 people were successfully teleported, even the teleportation array was damaged. Once my disciple enters, he will lay down a sensing array to increase the speed of the teleportation array and reduce the consumption, but this teleportation array's energy is almost completely used up and it has also been damaged. It's best not to teleport a second time. God Lord Stellar Aspect calmly said. Xin Wuheng had only managed to escape with 4 people, and none of them had reached rank 9. Logically speaking, Ancient Soul Hall's team should have been able to crush them. At the same time, God Lord Stellar Aspect fell into deep thought. During the teleportation just now, he suddenly sensed a profound destiny law interfering. There really weren't many people in the ancient desolate realm of gods who were more skilled in the destiny Tao than him. Could it be from that faction? God Lord Stellar Aspect's eyes became even more profound. In fact, as soon as he arrived, he felt an invisible force of fate interfering with him, which was why he arrived much later than he had expected. The surrounding people were all sighing in shock at God Lord Stellar Aspect's astonishing methods. Ancient Soul Hall was only responsible for the location of the ancestral legacy treasury, but God Lord Stellar Aspect was able to use this to quickly find a loophole and establish a teleportation channel. Within the ancestral legacy treasury, Yuhang and the Ancient Soul Hall group landed in the air above a swamp forest. This is the giant god race's ancestral legacy treasury. What a powerful suppression. At the start, none of them were used to this and could only sigh in amazement. Only God Lord Stellar Aspect's disciple, Yuhang, suddenly revealed a faint smile. We'll split into 3 groups. Our goal is to find the ancient god seal. Yuhang said. In reality, this space was extremely vast. It couldn't be called a treasure vault at all. Coupled with the spacetime suppression, it was not easy to find a single person. The 3 half-step god lords had rather nasty expressions. They had come here to seek the secret of becoming a god lord. But now, they had to obey a rank 9 ancient god. But they had also seen the person behind Yuhang. Not only was God Lord Stellar Aspect incredibly powerful, even God Lord Gloomhaven maintained a sliver of respect for him. In the end, the 10 members of Ancient Soul Hall successfully divided into 3 teams. Each team was led by a half-step god lord. This is the map of this place, but the actual situation might be very different from the map. After all, too much time has passed. Yuhang took out a huge map. The map was very simple. It only had a rough outline of the terrain and some particularly dangerous areas were marked. At a glance, the crowd discovered that there were more than 40 to 50 danger signs on the map. However, what was even more shocking was that Yuhang actually had a map of this place. Meanwhile, the giant god race members were slowly approaching the giant god race treasury. Other than Zhao Feng, the others gradually sensed signs that Zhao Feng was right. This place was indeed occupied by demon immortals. How could this be? It's been occupied by demonic beasts. Ancient god Resplendence appeared rather dispirited. Too much time has passed. The defensive array of the giant god race's treasury has gradually weakened, and the Yao beasts have broken through and occupied it. Xin Wuheng sighed. The occupation of the giant god race's treasury was truly a massive blow to their morale. If they could obtain all the resources inside, the giant god race would be able to quickly rise to power. But at this time, according to Zhao Feng's description, there were more than 20 Yao gods. As for rank 9 Yao gods, based on his observations, there were around 2, and the leader was far stronger than an ordinary rank 9. Even if they worked together and used all their trump cards, they might still lose their lives against such a terrifying Yao god horde. Moreover, the Yao gods of this place were skilled in spacetime intent. Once they decided to force their way in, there would be no path of retreat. If that's the case, we can only go elsewhere and gather resources. Xin Wuheng immediately began to think of a solution. Although this place was rich in precious resources, gathering resources from all over the place was definitely not as good as directly taking the resources from the giant god race treasury. Moreover, the resources here were mostly inclined toward spacetime intent. The giant god race needed resources that could quickly increase their strength. In addition, gathering resources from all over the place would mean facing many unknown dangers. It's not like there's no way. At this moment, Zhao Feng's voice rang out. Everyone's bodies trembled as they looked at Zhao Feng. With our strength, trying to force our way into the giant god race treasury truly is like trying to smash an egg against a rock, but we can borrow the strength of other forces. Zhao Feng voiced his thoughts. Ancient god Cheng Yun immediately rolled his eyes. You've seen for yourself just how much the Yao gods of this place hate outsiders. How could they possibly help us? You're too stupid. Don't you know how to sow discord and borrow a knife to kill others? Zhao Feng faintly smiled, a hint of disdain in his voice. Ancient god Cheng Yun's face instantly froze. As for the others, they finally understood what Zhao Feng meant. That black mountain from before just so happened to have a Yao beast horde. Xin Wuheng noticed Zhao Feng's plan. You're saying that we can use the strength of another Yao god horde to hold down the Yao god horde in the treasury, and then we can use this chance to sneak into the treasury and steal the resources. Ancient god Resplendence was alarmed. Although the plan was excellent, if there was a single mistake, they would have to face the combined assault of two powerful Yao beast hordes, which would undoubtedly result in certain death. Zhao Feng, you should have a plan, right? Xin Wuheng guessed. Based on his understanding, Zhao Feng rarely did anything that he wasn't confident in. Little thieving cat, it's your turn. Zhao Feng said to the silver-gray cat on his shoulder. Just what kind of cat is this? Xin Wuheng muttered in shock. Back in the continent zone, this little thieving cat had accompanied Zhao Feng. He couldn't see through the little thieving cat back then, and it was even more so now. Meow. The little thieving cat reluctantly agreed, and then it began to act like it was about to take on a heavy responsibility. The little thieving cat understood Zhao Feng's plan, and it leaped forward, concealing itself in the void as it slowly approached the giant god race treasury. What a profound spatial movement technique. Ancient god Sundermount sighed in amazement. That cat doesn't seem to be suppressed by this place. Xin Wuheng noticed this from the little thieving cat's actions. Zhao Feng nodded. The little thieving cat truly was not suppressed by this place, which made him rather envious. Just what sort of secret did this Heaven's Legacy cat hold for it to be so unique? But it was precisely because of this that he had the little thieving cat take action. The first step of the plan was to have the little thieving cat draw out a lone Yao god. Not long after the little thieving cat left, Zhao Feng suddenly began to move, and the others immediately followed. Stop, wildcat! A savage silver tiger chased after the little thieving cat. The silver tiger was only a rank 8 Yao god skilled in time intent, but it was still being played around by the little thieving cat. Good! The little thieving cat has successfully lured out a lone Yao god. Zhao Feng faintly smiled. When the silver tiger was some distance away from the treasury, Zhao Feng's group suddenly charged out. A human. The silver tiger immediately sensed them and prepared to flee. After all, there were too many of them, and one of them had even reached rank 9. But at this moment, the little thieving cat waved its paws, unleashing a powerful sealing intent that sealed away the silver tiger's power. The silver tiger only had a rank 8 cultivation, so Zhao Feng's group quickly caught up to it. Take control of it. Zhao Feng called out. The giant god race group surrounded the silver tiger and unleashed a barrage of attacks on its soul. Dark Heart Seal. Zhao Feng condensed a seal of lightning in his left eye and imprinted it on the tiger. Good, the first step is complete. Zhao Feng called out. After enslaving this Yao god, Zhao Feng gained a better understanding of the Yao gods in the treasury. Zhao Feng then used this Yao god to easily lure out 2 more Yao gods, one of which was a peak rank 8. Zhao Feng had now enslaved 3 silver tiger Yao gods. Good. Let's go provoke another group of Yao gods. Zhao Feng gave a smug smile. An excellent plan. Ancient God Resplendence couldn't help but sigh in amazement. A little while later, Zhao Feng's group arrived near the massive Black Mountain. Zhao Feng controlled the 3 silver tiger Yao gods to charge in and slaughter the Yao gods of the Black Mountain, even uttering bold words of provocation. At first, the Yao gods of the Black Mountain were unmoved. However, after the silver tiger Fey immortals' repeated provocations, they were finally infuriated. They sent out powerful Fey immortals to interrogate the Fey immortals in the treasury. Before this, Zhao Feng had the 3 silver tiger Yao gods return to the giant god race treasury. "Boss, that group of Yao from Black Mountain injured us and killed our companions. They also said that they would attack sooner or later, kill a sick tiger like you, and swallow up our territory." Zhao Feng had the 2 silver tiger Yao gods complain to the leader of the Yao gods. Preposterous. The gigantic tiger's body was covered in strange dark silver stripes, and its eyes flickered with a ferocious light. Before long, the Yao gods of Black Wind Mountain arrived, and the silver tiger Yao god horde killed them. The Yao gods of this place were cruel and bloodthirsty to begin with, and they were easy to provoke. The situation escalated, and in less than a month, the 2 Yao god hordes started fighting. Between the treasury and the Black Mountain, the 2 Yao god hordes fought. "You say I'm a sick tiger, so let me see how powerful you, fat snake, are." The giant silver tiger roared at the sky and clashed with a huge silver-green python. Both had peak rank 9 cultivation, and their battle was earth-shattering. Their profound time intent made it difficult for others to see their movements, and once they got close, it was like they had entered a world in slow motion, making it difficult for them to move. "Let's go," Zhao Feng said in a low voice. Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng quickly approached the treasury. Xian Wuheng was powerful while Zhao Feng was skilled in concealment, making it difficult for the Yao gods guarding the treasury to notice them. Ancient God Resplendence and the others left to provide support, while the little thieving cat stayed near the battlefield. Once the Yao gods returned, Zhao Feng would immediately notice them. "This way," Xian Wuheng messaged. This was the treasury built by the giant god race, so he was the most familiar with the layout and layout. Zhao Feng used his see-through ability to see through the treasury and realized that the layout of the treasury was identical to the small map inscribed on the ancient god seal. Chapter 1363. Zhao Feng had learned his spatial concealment technique from ancient god Luo Ling of the Spacetime Sacred Land. It allowed him to hide in space while rapidly advancing without being detected. Xian Wuheng was powerful and had a profound understanding of this place. He could fuse his aura with space, and he was also the person with the greatest understanding of the treasury. Thus, he had to sneak in. After passing through the hall, Xian Wuheng's expression froze. The layout of this place has mostly been altered. The places where the resources and treasures were stored are all empty. Xian Wuheng communicated with Zhao Feng. After all, the silver tiger Yao gods had occupied the giant god race treasury. They couldn't just leave the treasures there, so they must have split them up. The giant god race probably sealed all their resources and treasures here. Zhao Feng's left eye had noticed a few clues about the array and deduced. Because too much time has passed, the sealing array has gradually lost its power, allowing the Yao gods to destroy it and take the treasures inside. But there might still be some places where the sealing array has not been destroyed. Zhao Feng analyzed. "You're right." Xian Wuheng was slightly shocked. This was only the outer perimeter of the treasury. There were many more important places where resources were stored. The ones who had laid down the defensive array were god lords of the giant god race. If not for the fact that it had been so long, these Yao gods wouldn't have been able to touch any of the resources or treasures here. "There are 2 guards over there." Zhao Feng transmitted what he saw to Xian Wuheng. 2 Yao god groups were fighting, but there were still guards. From this, one could see that there were definitely some secrets inside. That's one of the places where the treasures are stored. Xin Wuheng's eyes flashed. The two of them began to approach the guarded secret hall. What do you think the battle outside is going on? One of the dark-skinned silver tigers asked. Is there even a need to ask? We definitely have the upper hand. Ever since we took over the treasury, we've been breaking through the defensive array and obtaining treasures. Our overall strength has been rapidly increasing. The other guard said with a smile. That's true. I wonder who built this treasury for so many treasures to be stored inside. We have to thank them, aha. The dark-skinned silver tiger heartily laughed. Since you want to thank me, use your life to thank me. Xin Wuheng snorted. He suddenly appeared and pointed a finger. That finger light was extremely condensed. It was like a sharp sword that pierced out in an instant. Not good. The silver tiger demon immortal's expression changed drastically. His cultivation base was only at the 8th rank, and the moment Xin Wuheng appeared, he felt a sense of life and death crisis. However, Xin Wuheng's attack had been accumulating power for a long time. He had condensed his divine power and bloodline attack to the limit. It was extremely fast and hit instantly. Poof! A bloody hole appeared in the silver tiger Yao immortal's head. The hole ran from front to back as blood gushed out. Even if the demon gods here were much stronger than the outside world, an ordinary rank 8 demon god like that could not withstand a single move from Xin Wuheng. How dare you trespass? The other silver tiger revealed a look of fear and was about to contact the other Yao gods. Tribulation lightning eye flame. At this moment, a twisting ball of lightning flames exploded in the soul dimension. This tribulation lightning eye flame was one of the stronger attacks that Zhao Feng could unleash with his origin energy sealed. The silver tiger's soul was struck by the powerful tribulation lightning and was unable to send a message. After struggling for only 1 second, its soul perished. The two glanced at each other. This was their first time working together since they had met. Although Xin Wuheng was a giant god race expert with an extremely thick bloodline and a far stronger cultivation than Zhao Feng, he had never looked down on Zhao Feng. For example, the soul attack that Zhao Feng had just used was enough to threaten Xin Wuheng. Moreover, Xin Wuheng sensed that Zhao Feng's left eye had not used its full power. Zhao Feng, who had just finished off one of the guards, sighed in amazement at Xin Wuheng's technique. Based on his observations, when a member of the giant god race borrowed too much bloodline energy, they would have to reveal their true bodies. However, Xin Wuheng was able to fuse the majority of his bloodline energy into his attacks without revealing his true body. This ability to control and utilize the giant god race bloodline was not something that other members of the giant god race could compare to. I didn't alarm the other guards. Zhao Feng said as he scanned his surroundings with the god's spiritual eye. Xin Wuheng used a secret art to open a small crack in the door, and the two of them entered. The interior of the hall was like an exquisitely decorated room. Flowers, potted plants, and antique books were scattered about. But in reality, every single item here was a precious material or treasure that was renowned in the outside world. For example, the books on the table were all high-level divine rank cultivation techniques. The flower vase next to the books was a top-notch divine rank high-rank divine artifact, the myriad spirit celestial vase. It was rumored that this storage divine artifact contained countless independent spaces of various environments. It could store both cold attribute and fire attribute treasures. Good. The majority of the treasures and resources in this room are still intact. Xin Wuheng was pleasantly surprised. He immediately walked up to the table and used a secret art to undo the array. The array here was created by the giant god race's art, and it was fused with a secret art of Heaven's legacy. Only the upper echelon members of the giant god race knew how to undo it. Myriad Spirit Heavenly Vase. A little while later, Xian Wuheng undid the array seal on the myriad spirit heavenly vase and put it away. Too slow. Zhao Feng was rather anxious. After all, the array here had been laid down by a god lord. Even if Xian Wuheng knew how to undo it, he would still need some time. But there were 50 to 60 objects of various sizes here. If Xian Wuheng had to undo them one by one, he had no idea how long it would take. Whoosh! Zhao Feng walked up to the antique shelf, his left eye enveloping the entire shelf. What are you doing? The array here is a secret art unique to the giant god race, and it's also fused with a secret art of heaven's legacy. Xian Wuheng immediately messaged. If the array here was so easy to undo, the silver tiger Yao gods would have long ago plundered all the treasures here. God Eye. Disintegration. A dreamy mist flashed through Zhao Feng's left eye, enveloping the entire antique shelf and passing through it tens of thousands of times. In order to reduce the amount of energy he expended, Zhao Feng focused on the array seal. Whoosh! All the array seals in his field of vision were gradually weakening, and the structure of the array was being destroyed. What sort of eye bloodline technique is this? Xian Wuheng paled in fright. How could there be such a miraculous eye bloodline technique in the world that could constantly weaken the power of an array? But Xian Wuheng couldn't care less. He focused on breaking the array and gathering resources. Once he had taken away all the resources outside of the antique shelf, Zhao Feng had also smoothly unraveled all the arrays on the antique shelf. Many thanks. Xian Wuheng said with a smile. The items on the antique shelf were more valuable, mostly divine artifacts and tools. For this reason, the arrays here were also stronger, so he didn't start there. But once he took away all the other items, Zhao Feng had unraveled all the arrays on the antique shelf. This saved Xian Wuheng half the time he needed. After plundering this haul, the two of them left and continued their search. Wind God Finger. Tribulation Lightning Eye Flame. Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng worked together to kill a rank 8 Yao god. After all, the two races were in a war, and the stronger combatants were fighting. Thus, the guards and patrols were usually ordinary rank 8 Yao gods. Let's take a look at the center of the treasury. Xian Wuheng said after plundering a small chamber. The center of the treasury was the most precious place in the giant god race treasury. There are only 2 guards. Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng used the same method as before, each approaching a guard and launching a fatal attack. Thump. The 2 guards were instantly killed by Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng's attacks. Okay. Xian Wuheng rejoiced and activated a secret art to open the treasury. However, the moment the treasury opened, the two scanned it with their divine senses and were shocked. In the deepest part of the treasury was a silver-white tiger. It was enormous, and its cultivation had reached peak rank 8. It looked extremely similar to the leader of this group of Yao gods. You're humans. Infiltrators. The silver tiger suddenly stood up and stared at Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng. In the outside world, the two groups of Yao gods were fighting fiercely. You actually sent people to infiltrate my treasury. The silver tiger's expression suddenly changed, and its eyes turned cold as it stared at the silver-green python in front of it. Humph, I didn't do such a thing. You must have offended too many Yao gods, so they used this chance to infiltrate your treasury. The silver-green python laughed. Bullshit. I haven't seen a human in hundreds of millions of years. The silver tiger cursed and prepared to return to the treasury. A human. The silver-green python froze, but seeing that the silver tiger was about to leave, it immediately charged out. Where do you think you're going? The silver-green python immediately unleashed powerful time intent and spat out a dark green mist. Our two factions have been at peace for many years. Do you really want to go to this extent? The silver tiger was furious. Humph, it was you who killed my Yao gods first, and now you're provoking me. The silver-green python coldly laughed. Nonsense. It was clearly you who killed my Yao gods first. The two peak rank 9 Yao gods immediately began to argue. Gradually, they began to piece together what had happened. Could it be those humans? Humph, I'd like to see just who would be so bold as to provoke us and even infiltrate your treasury to steal. The two peak rank 9 Yao gods came to an agreement and immediately stopped. Look! That black mountain is filled with treasures. A peak rank 8 ancient god of ancient soul hall called out. The leader of the ancient soul race half-step god lord glanced over and was somewhat tempted. But at this moment, a crystal ball in his hand flashed with azure light. There's activity. The ancient god seal is nearby. Ancient god JLC called out in alarm. This tool had been given to them by Yu Heng. As long as the ancient god seal appeared within a certain range, it would produce a phenomenon. For a moment, the three-man team stood still. Why don't we go to that black mountain and take a look? The peak rank 8 ancient god whispered. Although finding the ancient god seal was their first mission, their movements here were not monitored. Ancient Soul Hall and God Lord Stellar Aspect had no idea what they were up to. No, let's find the ancient god seal first. The ancient Soul Hall God Lords and God Lord Stellar Aspect view the ancient god seal with such importance. If we can find the ancient god seal, we'll be the greatest contributors to this operation. We'll be rewarded handsomely. Ancient God JLC said after some thought. Chapter 1364. When the peak rank 8 Silver Tiger discovered the central treasury, Zhao Feng and the others did not immediately retreat. This was because Zhao Feng could see through the little thieving cat's eyes that the two Yao God groups were still fighting. Thus, Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng prepared to charge into the treasury, kill the Silver Tiger, and plunder a few things before leaving. However, just as the two were about to attack the peak rank 8 Silver Tiger, they suddenly realized that the Silver Tiger was giving off a soul intent that far surpassed their cultivation. Not good. This Silver Tiger is the clone of the Yao God group's leader. Zhao Feng's god spiritual eye immediately saw this. At the same time, the little thieving cat told Zhao Feng what was happening on the battlefield. Let's go. The two Yao God groups are coming. Zhao Feng grimaced. As the two retreated, the peak rank 8 Silver Tiger charged out to stop Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng. This was naturally the will of the Silver Tiger leader. With Xian Wuheng and Zhao Feng's strength, killing the Silver Tiger would be a piece of cake. But now that the two Yao God groups were coming, they did not dare to linger for even a second longer. The moment they left the giant god race treasury, the two of them saw a vast horde of tiger and snake Yao gods in the distance, all of them charging at them. Their leaders were a giant tiger covered in strange dark silver stripes and a silver-green python. Both of them were at the peak of the 9th stage. If it was an ordinary peak rank 9 Yao god, Xian Wuheng wouldn't care at all. However, the Yao gods here were skilled in time intent. In a one-on-one fight, even Xian Wuheng would find it troublesome. Moreover, the other side was a group of Yao gods, each one powerful and numerous. You two thieves, you dare to steal the treasures of my treasury. The giant silver tiger roared towards the sky, its might overflowing. It was you two who provoked our two groups. The silver-green python coldly said. Run! Zhao Feng called out. Given their reaction speed, they should have been able to escape before the two demon god groups arrived. Unfortunately, the peak rank 9 Silver Tiger had left an avatar in the central treasury. Because of the pinnacle rank 9 Yao Immortal's deliberate control, the Silver Tiger's combat strength was even greater, but it still wasn't a match for Zhao Feng and his companion. Stay here. The avatar exploded under the control of the main body, forming a dark silver destructive storm that forced Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng into the depths of the treasury. Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng worked together, repeatedly using defensive secret techniques to block the damage from the explosion. Rumble. As soon as they did, the distant demon immortals swarmed toward Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng. Even Zhao Feng, who had always been calm, felt his heart racing. You can't escape. Xian Wuheng's face darkened. In this place, they were suppressed by the time power Upanishad, and their movement speed was halved. As for these Yao gods, they were born here and did not suffer this suppression. In fact, because of time intent, they moved with incredible speed. They were about to catch up to Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng. The power of these two Yao god groups was enough to instantly crush the two of them. Zhao Feng, do you have any ideas? Xian Wuheng asked. Up until now, Zhao Feng had always surprised everyone. If not even Zhao Feng could do anything, Xian Wuheng could only use the ancient god seal's power to leave with Zhao Feng. But the ancient god seal required 1,000,000 years to open a path. If they left now, they would need to wait another 1,000,000 years before they could enter again. Moreover, the resources they had gathered in the giant god race treasury weren't enough to support the rise of the entire giant god race. 1,000,000 years was far too long, and too many things could happen in that time. What's going on up ahead? The peak rank 8 ancient god of ancient soul hall asked in surprise. According to the tool in ancient god Jaelsia's hand, the ancient god seal was up ahead. But he sensed that something was wrong, and the air was suffused with the stench of blood. That's a group of Yao gods. Ancient god Jaelsia's divine sense was stronger and had a greater range, so he was able to sense what was going on. Could Xian Wuheng's group have been surrounded by a group of Yao gods? Ancient god Jaelsi speculated. The crystal ball in his hand told him that the ancient god seal wasn't far from that group of Yao gods. Then what should we do? The other member of the group asked. Let's wait and see. Ancient god Jaelsi called out. They were all keenly aware of how powerful the Yao gods of this place were. Even though he was a half-step god lord, he had no chance of winning against this many Yao gods. Ancient god Jaelsi was a half-step god lord, so he could sense the Yao god group. The Yao gods were creatures born and raised in this place, so they were not suppressed. Moreover, they were old and had formidable wills, so they could also sense the ancient soul hall trio behind them. When the two Yao god groups were less than 100,000 li from Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng, they suddenly stopped. Humans. The silver tiger's eyes were extremely gloomy. How could there be so many humans here? The silver-green python was also surprised. On the other side of the Yao god group, Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng sensed that there was something strange about the Yao god group. There's someone else. Zhao Feng's expression darkened. When Xian Wuheng opened the path to the ancient god seal, only the 5 of them had entered. But based on what the two Yao god groups were saying, there were apparently other humans nearby. It's not ancient god Resplendent's group. Xian Wuheng immediately said after making the connection. This was even more absurd. Could there have been humans in this dimension to begin with? But now was not the time to worry about this. Escaping was more important. Zhao Feng's eyes suddenly brightened, and then he said in pleasant surprise, "Wonderful. Captain's group is here. The treasures of the treasury will be easy to obtain." Xian Wuheng was at first dazed, and then he gave a speechless smile. He didn't know who the other humans nearby were, but they had all fallen into Zhao Feng's trap. What? Captain. The silver tiger grimaced. It hadn't expected for these people to have companions. As they pursued Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng, they were truly far away from the treasury. If they continued to pursue Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng, the 3 people behind them might use this chance to enter the treasury. Moreover, the strongest of the 3 was a half-step god lord. In a one-on-one fight, not even the peak rank 9 silver tiger was a match for him. Let's go. Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng leisurely flew forward. The silver tiger Yao god group was in a dilemma. If they continued to pursue Zhao Feng, the three people behind them would use this chance to enter the treasury. Help me out, and I'll reward you handsomely. The silver tiger said to the silver-green python. Okay. The silver-green python immediately agreed. In this battle between the two races, there had been many casualties. And all of this had been instigated by the humans, so he was extremely angry and hated the humans. You guys, chase after the two of them. The silver tiger immediately ordered. He and the silver-green python took many Yao gods and began to retreat to the rear. Of the remaining 4 silver tigers, 1 was a rank 9, 2 were peak rank 8s, and 1 was a rank 8. These 4 Yao gods immediately lunged at Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng. Okay. Xian Wuheng couldn't help but call out. Compared to the danger from before, these 4 silver tigers weren't much. The nearby unknown human is actually so strong that 2 Yao god leaders are working together to deal with him. Zhao Feng was rather alarmed. He was just testing the waters just now. If he succeeded, it would naturally be for the best. But Zhao Feng hadn't expected for it to be so successful. The nearby unknown human had attracted the attention of 90% of the Yao gods. On the other end, ancient god JLC, something's wrong. The peak rank 8 ancient god suddenly said. Something truly is wrong. Ancient god JLC's expression was extremely gloomy. The 3 of them hadn't done anything at all, so why was the horde of demon immortals suddenly attacking them with such ferocious energy? From the looks of it, they seemed to have formed some sort of blood feud. Ancient god JLC, let's go. The other rank 9 ancient god called out in alarm. Slow down. Ancient god JLC called out. They had missed out on the opportunity on the Black Mountain precisely to kill Xian Wuheng and obtain the ancient god seal. If they ran now, they would have missed out on this opportunity. Everyone, we don't seem to have any grudge. Ancient god JLC roared. Humph, no grudge. You make it sound so easy. The silver-green python coldly laughed. Nonsense. Crafty human, die. The dark silver tiger, unable to restrain its rage, transformed into a silver-white streak of light and lunged at ancient god JLC. The silver-green python followed closely behind. The 2 of them had to work together to deal with this half-step god lord. These retarded Yao gods. Could they have been fooled by Xian Wuheng's scheme? Ancient god JLC had already thought of something. But in the face of such a terrifying number of Yao gods, he could only run. All of you must have misunderstood something. The 3 of us came to capture the 2 youths you surrounded just now. Ancient god JLC waved his hands, sending 2 black halos at the 2 peak rank 9 Yao gods. You must die, but they will also die. The silver tiger roared. On the other side, the 4 Yao gods they had left behind were enough to tear Zhao Feng and Xian Wuheng to pieces. Thus, the most important thing right now was to eliminate these 3 to vent the hatred in their hearts. Awoo! The 4 Yao gods howled as they lunged forward. Let me! Xian Wuheng called out as he stepped forward, the bloodline in his body madly surging. Boom! A moment later, divine white light illuminated the sky, and Xian Wuheng's body instantly grew to a height of 100,000 feet. After activating his bloodline, Xian Wuheng's defense and strength were both greatly boosted. He was like a steel wall that blocked the 4 Yao gods. Meanwhile, Zhao Feng stood in the rear, using bloodline techniques and soul attacks to interfere with the 4 Yao gods. Of course, the 2 did not fight to the death, but instead fought and retreated. Lord Wuheng, we're here. Ancient god Resplendence group soon called out. The little thieving cat also followed. There were more helpers. The rank 9 ancient god was both angry and vexed. Although these 2 were of unusual strength, they had the numerical advantage, so victory was still theirs. It was only a matter of time. But now, 3 more ancient gods had appeared, along with a bizarre cat. With their addition, the 4 silver tiger Yao gods were immediately at a disadvantage. Don't get caught up in the fight. Escaping is more important. Xian Wuheng said. Although they had the advantage, the silver tiger Yao gods were completely capable of requesting reinforcements. The group worked together to fight and retreat, smoothly escaping the entanglement of the silver tiger Yao gods. After flying for more than half a day, the group tunneled underground to take a break. Lord Wuheng, how did the operation go? Ancient god Qing Yun excitedly asked. This was the treasury established by the giant god race. The resources and treasures inside were probably enough to support the rise of the giant god race. Chapter 1365. Lord Wuheng, how did the operation go? Ancient god Qing Yun excitedly asked. This was the treasury established by the giant god race. The resources and treasures inside were probably enough to support the rise of the giant god race. The treasury was occupied by a group of Yao gods, and many of the resources and treasures were dug out long ago. Zhao Feng and I were pressed for time, so we were only able to obtain a portion. Xian Wuheng truthfully reported. The other members of the giant god race were rather disappointed by this. This was the treasury established by the giant god race, but due to the incident at Ancient God Hall, the giant god race could no longer return to this place, resulting in the treasury being occupied by the Yao gods. But that's not important. This ancestral legacy treasury is incredibly vast and filled with opportunities. We can stay here for a little longer and gather resources. Xian Wuheng added. The others naturally agreed with these words. Firstly, they hadn't gained much. Even if they returned to the giant god race, they would find it very difficult to reverse the situation. Secondly, it was naturally better to stay in such a precious and bizarre ancestral legacy treasury for a little longer. Excavating opportunities and increasing their strength was beneficial to the giant god race as a whole. It was rumored that this place contained the secret to becoming a god lord. If they could obtain this opportunity, they might even be able to become god lords. At that time, even if they didn't have many resources, they could still lead the giant god race to overthrow ancient Soul Hall. This place is fraught with danger. Our strength is far from enough. Xian Wuheng took out some of the resources he had seized from the treasury and distributed them to the group. These resources had been left behind by the giant god race in the past, so it was only right and proper for the giant god race to use them. Now, in order to increase their strength, Xian Wuheng was taking them out. Many thanks, Hall Master. Ancient God Resplendence and the others were shocked and delighted as they took the resources. Normally, they would have needed to exchange contribution points for these resources, but this was a special time, so they could enjoy such treatment. Zhao Feng, we need your strength, so you can also be considered a member of Giant God Hall. Xian Wuheng said to Zhao Feng. These resources were far from enough to supply the giant god race. If he were to give them to Zhao Feng, it would inevitably cause the other members of the giant god race to hold a grudge, so he said this. These are for your giant god race. Keep them. I hope that I can have the right to distribute the opportunities one obtain in this place. Zhao Feng rejected Xian Wuheng's gift and stated his own request. After all, it was only because of Xian Wuheng and the giant god race that he had the chance to come here. If he obtained some sort of precious treasure, the giant god race would inevitably set their sights on him and cause conflict between the two sides. Thus, Zhao Feng had refused the giant god race's resources and made this request. Alright, I have no opinion on this. Let's see who's capable. Ancient God Qing Yun immediately said. If he refused, Zhao Feng would be able to wantonly use the resources of the giant god race. Ancient God Qing Yun did not want to see this. Moreover, the giant god race had many people. Could their treasure-seeking abilities be inferior to Zhao Feng's alone? Alright, that's it. Xin Wuheng did not pay much attention to it. Zhao Feng's contribution was indispensable for them to be able to enter the ancestral legacy treasury alive. Furthermore, Zhao Feng and the little thieving cat were indispensable in the exploration of this place, so Zhao Feng's request wasn't unreasonable. Moreover, this dimension was something that the ancestors of the giant god race had inadvertently obtained, not created by the giant god race itself. This place was filled with opportunities, but it was also fraught with danger. If Zhao Feng had the strength, he could take it away. On the other side, the ancient Soul Hall group was being pursued by a group of Yao gods. Don't let them escape. The Silver Tiger roared. He had just received news that Zhao Feng's group had smoothly escaped. If he allowed these humans to escape as well, he would never be able to swallow this anger. You're refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Do you really think that the ancient soul race is easy to bully? Ancient God JLC was infuriated. He didn't want to tangle with the Yao gods for too long, but they were relentlessly pursuing him. He was a mighty half-step god lord, but he was being pursued by 2 peak rank 9 ancient gods. Bzzzzz. Ancient God JLC immediately activated his bloodline power, and his body transformed into a translucent black soul body. Boom! Plush! The attacks of the Silver Tiger and Silver-Green Python passed right through Ancient God JLC's body without inflicting much damage. The Ancient Soul Race. The Silver-Green Python's expression darkened. In its memories, this race was extremely powerful and skilled in soul attacks. The Dead Sea of Hell. Ancient God JLC's body continued to swell, transforming into a black wave that floated in the sky. Many of the Yao gods with weaker soul intents trembled as they felt an unprecedented pressure weighing down on their souls. Ancient God JLC's supreme technique. By using the special spiritual bodies of the ancient soul race and using a secret bloodline art, he can create a soul sea of hell. Wherever it goes, all souls will fall silent and plunge them into hell. The other two couldn't help but sigh in shock. Die! Ancient God JLC roared. The black and silent wave immediately rose several dozen feet into the air, transforming into a massive tsunami that engulfed the Yao gods. The 2 peak rank 9 Yao gods immediately used soul attacks. But Ancient God JLC's soul was so powerful that it took the brunt of their soul attacks and howled forward. In a flash, the 2 peak rank 9 Yao gods were surrounded by the black wave. The other Yao gods nearby were also caught up in the shockwaves. At first, they did their best to fight back. But gradually, their souls began to rapidly weaken, and quite a few rank 8 Yao gods were devoured by Ancient God JLC. Not good. This person's soul techniques are too powerful. The Silver-Green Python used the power of time to fight against the dark seawater. Save me. On the other side, the Silver Tiger, whose speed and agility were slightly inferior to the Python, had already been restrained by Ancient God JLC's soul body. Anyone who can be called a half-step God Lord has at least one intent that has reached level 9. My water intent is extremely powerful. None of you will be able to escape. Ancient God JLC's voice came from the black wave. Besides water intent, his soul attacks were also infused with darkness intent. The two worked together to gradually cause a soul to lose consciousness and sink into silence. As long as they could no longer fight back, he could easily refine and devour their souls. However, using this secret art was extremely taxing on Ancient God JLC's bloodline. Moreover, the range of his attacks was very wide, so it was also very taxing on his mind. The 2 peak rank 9 ancient gods grimaced. If not for their powerful soul intents and their mastery of time intent, they would have already been killed. The world darkened, and the dark water seemed to drown out everything. Work together. The 2 peak rank 9 Yao gods glanced at each other and began to circulate time intent. Suddenly, the world slowed to a crawl and eventually came to a stop. The 2 peak rank 9 Yao gods instantly broke free of Ancient God JLC's bindings. They hadn't even gotten very far when the world returned to normal. They escaped. Time intent. Ancient God Jalsia's expression darkened. The two peak rank 9 ancient gods worked together to use time intent to freeze time in an area. Fortunately, ancient God Jalsi had a powerful cultivation, and the freezing lasted for only half a second. After breaking free, the two peak rank 9 Yao gods had extremely weak and dispirited expressions as they stared at ancient God Jalsi. Although they had broken free, the two of them were in an extremely low state, with less than 50% of their peak fighting power. However, ancient God Jalsi had been using this secret art for a long time. Let's go. The dark water slowly gathered back into ancient God Jalsia's appearance. Although he had managed to intimidate the two Yao god groups, ancient God Jalsi had also expended a great deal of energy. If he continued to fight, his soul would suffer irreparable wounds. Moreover, this place was fraught with danger, and they still had a mission to complete. Whoosh! 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 Ancient God Jalsia's team left, and the surviving Yao gods only watched, making no attempt to stop them. Xin Wuheng, Zhao Feng, I'll make you beg for death. Ancient God Jalsia's face was savage as he gnashed his teeth. This incident was definitely because of Zhao Feng and Xin Wuheng's group. Deep underground, Zhao Feng's group was waiting. The members of the giant god race were using the items they had plundered from the treasury to cultivate and increase their strength. Zhao Feng also took out a dark lightning crystal from the 9 lightning soul refining mirror and swallowed it. The 9 lightning soul refining mirror could automatically refine and absorb souls, so Zhao Feng didn't have to worry about it. However, while refining souls, the lightning energy of the 9 lightning soul refining mirror would weaken. However, if the refined lightning soul crystal was used as an energy source, it could increase the power of the 9 lightning soul refining mirror. Zhao Feng had recently been consuming lightning soul crystals to refine his soul intent, strengthen his soul energy, and expel the impurities in his soul. Lightning soul crystal. Ancient God Cheng Yun saw Zhao Feng swallow a dark lightning crystal, and his face froze in shock. It was no wonder that Zhao Feng's soul eye bloodline techniques were so powerful that not even he, with his giant god race bloodline, could resist them. As it turned out, Zhao Feng had such a precious soul resource. It's rumored that lightning soul crystals can temper one's soul, refine one's soul energy, expel one's demon barrier, and cause the soul to undergo a heaven-toppling transformation. Ancient God Sundermount immediately said. But swallowing it like that is truly reckless. Ancient God Cheng Yun quietly chuckled. The medicinal energy of lightning soul crystals was extremely tyrannical. It was normally crushed into powder or mixed with other soul-healing liquids. Otherwise, one might not be able to endure the tyrannical medicinal energy and suffer irreparable damage to the soul. However, after Zhao Feng swallowed the lightning soul crystal, he didn't show any signs of discomfort. His mouth would occasionally crackle, and he seemed to be enjoying it. This was not an act on Zhao Feng's part. To his lightning soul body, this tyrannical lightning soul crystal was the best tonic. Alas, these lightning soul crystals were all refined from the souls of rank 8 ancient gods. Zhao Feng mentally sighed. These lightning soul crystals were all refined from the souls of the experts of the heavenly demon hall, but the souls that Zhao Feng used the 9 lightning soul refining mirror to absorb were at most peak rank 8. At this time, Zhao Feng's soul intent had reached the limit of rank 8, and if he consumed too many lightning soul crystals, their effects would weaken. If he had lightning soul crystals refined from rank 9 souls, Zhao Feng's soul intent would have a high chance of directly reaching rank 9. Besides cultivating his soul, Zhao Feng was also comprehending time intent. In the ancestral legacy treasury, if one wasn't skilled in time intent, one would suffer greatly. Moreover, Zhao Feng cultivated time intent, and there were many more time intent resources here, making them much easier for him to cultivate. It wasn't just Zhao Feng. Xin Wuheng and the other ancient gods also began to comprehend time intent. 1 month later, the group ended their seclusion and prepared to continue exploring. Let's first find the best time intent resources. If we can all comprehend time intent, our overall strength will receive a massive boost. Xin Wuheng proposed, "You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."